The Dent Slayer, Matt Boyette. Thank you so much for being here.
She's smooth, boy.
So this would have been 2017. I was in Australia. We had a weekend off, and so we went to like a flea market.
What do they call that in Australia?
I don't remember what it was called.
Okay.
But it was a flea market. A lot of vendors. It had anything from kangaroo pelts to,
Kangaroo meat to eat?
cheap Chinese toys, just whatever. So, and they had some buildings that you could go through, and then some outside, some food trucks, and then like some pavilions, just a roof, and then there was just this huge flea market. Really cool thing.
How do I keep listening after kangaroo pelts and just gloss right over that? We're just gonna leave that there. This kangaroo pelts, no big deal.
We bought.
Why is it not hanging up in this room?
I could do that. Easy, yeah. I don't know. I guess I should hang it up in this room.
I picture like the kind where you leave the head. The head goes over your head, and then you drape the rest over your back.
Not that big. Not that big. They're
Baby
small.
kangaroo?
Well, they're not all that.
They never even
bad.
got a
lot
chance
of
to
them are
jump
small.
around.
You can buy. So I bought some kangaroo nut sacks too.
What?
They're like a little coin purse.
You should be selling these to Dent guys.
They're the full on scrotum. They cut it off.
They're Black Plague tab bags.
It's a coin purse, or they stuff it and it turns into like a bottle opener. So like I gifted a few of my friends those, but
So that's how you get me to stop talking about the pelts.
Wow. Okay.
well, yeah.
No need
have
for
to-
a full story. That was enough.
I've seen you've seen some of those kangaroos. They're jacked, man.
Yeah.
Do
They're just muscular, ripped.
is it like bodybuilders where their nutsacks shrink up quite a bit when they get that big? So like really tiny little scrotums.
So I just bought the separate scrotum from the kangaroo, so I don't know what it.
Yeah,
came
you don't know which one it
off
goes to. It
attached
probably
to.
goes to the small one, like a little Italian guy.
For the most part, though, just kind of sideline the kangaroos. I mean, they're all over. They're like deer in America, so they're just everywhere. People hit them with their cars, and it's a thing. Like we have deer. So, but there's huge like parts of the zoo where you can just like walk in, and the kangaroos are just wild, and you can just walk through the field and touch them. And I got pictures of my kids like laying down in the grass with the kangaroo, petting them while they're all sleeping, and the kangaroo. So they're just kind of a normal thing like deer would be for us. Like they're in your backyard, they're in the road, you hit them.
You know, the same way like we get deer nutsacks.
I don't know.
Well, in Alaska, people buy moose nuggets, which are turds.
They buy them.
They make earrings out of. Like if you go to a gift shop in Alaska, they're moose nuggets.
I'm gonna have to take
and
your
it's
word
moose
for it.
dookie, and they make earrings, whatever. So I mean, Americans probably heard about this kangaroo thing and just took it to the next level in Alaska, at least.
Yeah, the Australians listening are probably like, yeah, this is a normal thing. Like, so
anyways,
backing up,
flea market.
I'm at this flea market. We're going up and down. So I'm trying to draw the picture for you. There's just these long aisles that you just walk up and down, back and forth, and there's everybody just fighting to get your attention and get your money, and you're just kind of browsing through. So we had my wife and my 4 kids, and my wife is the front, kids are all in between. I got the caboose, and I'm just making sure everybody's migrating down the aisles. So we go around this end cap of one, and there's 2 guys standing with their back kind of towards the end cap of the aisle. And as my family goes around it, they kind of bump each other's elbows and like look down at my kids like, hey, look at that. And I'm in the back, and so I see this, and I'm like, what the heck? This is, suspicious. And at that point, I was just like, my Jason Bourne was on, like I'm observant of everything at this point. Like I'm just like dialed. And so we walk down this aisle, we go around them, and we walk down another thing. We get to the other end of the aisle, and they were there.
Okay.
So they had beat us down there, and they watched us walk around it again. And at that point, I'm like, this is pretty freaking serious. Like this is pretty legit. And so I'm nervous. I didn't say anything to my wife at that point because I didn't want to, give any kind of fear, let them know.
Jason Bourne would not have said anything,
Exactly. So I'm just trying to lock in.
Same training.
Lock into that. But so I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Like, this is a bad situation. Like, I'm kind of vulnerable. I'm in a foreign country.
No guns.
No guns. No knives. Don't know nobody. Like, I don't know.
No
But
knives.
nobody has guns.
You do
Whoa.
not. No knives.
You're not allowed to have a knife?
Dude,
No.
I like your chances with 2 unarmed guys.
Mine?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like my chances in the U.S. because everyone has a gun.
Yeah.
But man, they got no guns and no knives. You got a fighting chance with 2 guys.
Well, here's the deal. They're criminals, which means
They probably have knives.
are armed. You know, I mean,
yeah,
like we can't.
they don't follow laws.
They don't follow laws. So,
Wait, what?
so I'm pretty scared.
Yeah.
You know, like what do I
Okay.
do? What do I do? I got 4 kids and a wife, and I'm
Yeah.
feeling very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like not happy. And so we kind of walk through, and I get out of that pavilion area, and I get into like a building. So you walk in the building, and then you can either go left or you can go right to kind of walk around like a circle around the building type deal. And so we go in the door, and I immediately go right, and I immediately go into the first store right there. And I'm like, hey, kids, look at this. And I push them in there, and I'm like, hey, check that out. Hey, go look, you know, distracting them. I stand at the front of the store, and I'm like watching to see if these guys follow me. And they do. They come into the mall or whatever that was, and they look left, and they look right, and they're looking for me, and I see them point, and they go the opposite way. And I'm like, all right, I got to make a freaking run for this, you know? And so I pull them out. I found like emergency exit door, which probably isn't the smartest hindsight.
No.
But I find out emergency exit door. I bounce out, shoot down this aisle. My wife's like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, you know, like we were having fun, and all of a sudden, emergency exit down an alley, and I'm just beelining. Like, come on, kids! And they're all like, they're really young, so they're all like, what are we doing? You know, we gotta go. I got called for work or whatever, and so as we're going, I'm like, hey, there was guys following us that you didn't see it, but they were tracking us the whole time. They followed us from here, and we got to here. Ran to my car, got in my car, and took off and escaped. But that was one of the most scary situations as a dad, as a parent, as a husband I've ever been in that got the most real, the most quick. Like, there was no question in my head that those guys had bad intentions for me and my family. It was obvious that they were following me. It was obvious that they were tracking me in some level.
Yeah.
And that
Being in another country is very unsettling. You in general, I feel very vulnerable. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know context about nothing. So, in having a bunch of kids, that's scary. But you got away.
Nothing's normal. Like,
Yeah.
you don't. It's not your normal. Call 911. It's not your normal. The police officers. Everything's different. I mean, I'm not saying it's any worse, but it's foreign to you. That's why it's called a foreign country.
Generally, you don't speak the language, and if you do, you don't speak it fluently. So I was just having this conversation with a gal who speaks fluent Spanish and English. She grew up speaking Spanish, but grew up in California. And we talked about going to Mexico. I always feel like I'm bait when I walk into Mexico. And I said, it's helpful, you know, if you speak the language. She's like, well, even when you speak the language, they know that your language isn't local, right? So they know you're not from there. And I said, yes, but being fluent in the language, you can tell when someone's speaking just a little bit sketchy and not answering questions just quite the right way. That it's hard to define that. But in English, you know, you're talking to some guy and you're like, so what are you doing out here? And they go, oh, you know, I'm just cruising through here. You're like, that's a ridiculous answer. This dude's up to no good. But if you speak broken Spanish and someone's like, oh, I'm just, you know, kind of coming through, you're like, oh, that sounds fine. I don't know the difference. But I think that fluent level understanding of language and like the community cues you into those little pieces that you cued in on, you know?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty situationally aware, like anywhere, like even in here in the States. Tonight, if I went out to dinner with my family, like there's gonna be a reason I sit somewhere in a booth or the way I have my back, like not because I'm some hero, but because I don't want to be the victim.
Yeah,
like that's.
I usually go with the softest seat. Is that what you're talking about? That way,
Most lumbar support. That's
yeah,
right.
that way if something goes down, like you're well rested and you're ready to respond.
No, I'm trying to look for. I want to be able to see who's coming in the door.
Oh, that's what I do too.
That's all I'm
I do
looking
that
for.
as well.
Is who can I see? I want to have as much head start on if somebody comes in with bad intention, as much time on my side that I can respond in whatever way. If it's get out through the kitchen or if it's respond in a way.
And we have guns here.
Yeah.
Do you have guns? Like, I know people can have guns, but it's harder.
It's
in
not.
California.
It's not that much harder. So California is interesting because it's really big. It's super long and tall. They're like all those horrible.
Super long and tall.
It is. So
I've never heard California described that way.
all those horrible fires that are happening.
Yeah.
Those are like 6 hours from me.
Yeah.
Super far away.
Yep.
Normally that's like in 2 other states away. So inside of California, in the Los Angeles area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, and probably in Southern California, San Diego, in these little pockets, the people are way, way different. They're way far left. They're way liberal. Everywhere else, it's really far red. Like there's a lot of rednecks in California, and they love their guns. And the sheriffs and everything in those counties are just like the guys out here. Like you don't need to do anything special to get a concealed permit. But inside of those little sanctuary cities, it's what you think California is.
Yeah.
But they're just a really small part of the whole state. Most of the state is like they're armed, well armed.
Agricultural.
Yeah, there's tons of farming, tons of mountain people. Like, you know what? I've talked about this on our show before, but what cued me in, I think guns are cool. I didn't have one at all up until my son started shooting trap in high school. I just didn't really feel like I needed one, and I thought the odds of me harming myself or a family member on accident are way higher than me being able to successfully defend my home with a properly stored weapon. So I'm like, I don't think I need one. So I'm like, I think most people probably then don't have guns because that's kind of how I think about it. And then there was years ago, somebody made a post in one of the dent repair groups like, hey, post your concealed carry. And it's like 100,000 posts and like, it's in the glove box. It's in my boots. I got 2 in both my boots. I got one in my hat and one in my glove box and one stapled in the side of my truck. I'm like, everybody's armed. I'm the only one who doesn't have a gun. And then I learned like if you see somebody who's pretty like normally dressed, but then they have a fanny pack that doesn't fit, that's a gun.
That's a gun.
I'm like, oh. So suddenly I was not mad at anybody in traffic. No, go ahead, man. It's all good today because you have a gun. Everybody has a gun now.
So today's guest is a 47-year-old entrepreneur, father of 4, been married 21 years. He began learning and working in paintless dent repair in 1999, starting from a VHS tape.
Have you even seen one?
I have, yes.
Out of dent repair.
I've never seen a dent repair VHS tape.
Did you have to go through beads to get the tape that you got? Never mind. Just keep on.
Like this?
Yeah.
No. In 2004, he founded Bullseye Dent Removal, which operates in the Sacramento area. In 2013, he founded Black Plague PDR, known for developing the first large format crease tabs and the first flat, smooth glue tab faces, which are now industry standard. He also founded and runs the PDR College Podcast, the first podcast specifically focused on dent repair, which started on August 25th, 2014. You remember that date. That's very specific.
Taking it back.
In January 2015, he and Shane Jacks began the PDR College Advanced Skills Seminar, bringing talented dent repair technicians from all over the world together to share advanced techniques and skill sets. Keith also founded ClaimConnection.io in August 23, helping dent repair techs interface with insurance companies to get fairly compensated. On the personal side, Keith has a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-jitsu and has run 3 ultra marathons at the 50-kilometer length. Welcome to the podcast, Keith Cosentino.
Thank you for the intro. Sounds like I'm more accomplished than I am with that one.
Very good. Yes.
I didn't know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think I met you officially last year.
Yeah. We kind of been like, you were a person that we were both circling around each other's like atmospheres, knew a lot of the same people, and just never really made an opportunity to interface. And we got to hang out and do a couple demos together at MTE.
Did some demos last year. That was cool.
Had a blast.
My son front kicked the door in, and we got to open it up with the lateral tension. And
I remember.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a crowd.
It was,
We'll try to do another crowd this year. It'd be cool to do. And so going back to your Black Plague, I want to say those were some of the first tabs I ever purchased. So I worked for Dent Wizard. Dent Wizard supplies a lot of tabs. You know, they would always give you the stuff. They usually supplied us Atlas, I think.
Yep.
Was the one. And then I want to say yours were the first ones that I bought.
I might be the same. The ones with the 3 bolts in them, the whole set.
Those were the first Black Plague crease tabs.
And you had normal gray.
Smooth tabs. Yeah, those were out before the gangrene tabs.
Yep.
Yeah, so first was the Black Plague crease tabs that had the 3 bolts in the big crease tabs and some smaller ones that had just 1 bolt holding them in. And then after that, we did the Smooth Series gray tabs. And then the feedback was that the gray color, it's like as soon as they hit the asphalt, they disappear.
Yep.
It's like chameleons.
Yep. That's why.
Yeah, so we changed the color to super bright green so they're easier to see, but we also switched the material and made it just a little more pliable than the gray ones. The gray ones, that's kind of like there's some products that you sleep on because they've been around for a while. You think they're like past their time. The original gray Smooth Series tabs are actually more rigid than the green ones, less so than the blue ones. So they kind of fit right in between. But since they're like the old ones, nobody plays with them anymore. Mm-hmm. But when you get really specific with your glue pulling, you know exactly what kind of pull you want. They have a nice little place in the lineup.
We were talking about this a while ago, just about some tabs that were kind of industry standard back in the day. And like, when is the industry going to kind of circle back to those tabs that worked really well and just find their niche?
I think the Atlas football is one of them.
Yep. I still have that's the Titan series.
Yeah.
I still have those. I still have my original, those big Black Plague crease ones.
Yeah.
Those things held up, man.
They did. They were ahead of their time. Like now you can bolt them to stuff and yank on things with towers and everything. But at first, people at the trade show were like, "What do I do with this?
Yeah,
this is giant."
Andy's got a ton of them at our other shop, and he was asking me if they're still available. So he was excited to know that they are. Because I mean, let's just face it, the industry moves so fast now.
Yeah.
And there's new tabs and there's new everything coming out. I mean, every year at least, but even throughout the whole year, things are dropping.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to stay on track of what's new, what's coming up. But it's also, do you think, like, just because it's older 2 years ago and it's not like it hasn't fully run its course, like with some of those old tabs, like they're still, we should probably revisit some of them, even if they might hook up differently with the modern glues.
Yeah.
Because there is a formula. We were using different tabs on different cars with different glues. And what might have not worked, 5-6 years ago on a tab might be perfect now. We were talking about that with the Atlas tabs, like, because we started reusing them and like, man, these hook up really good.
Yeah,
why did we get off of these?
Well, there's a learning curve to glue pulling, and it's a pretty long one. And when you finally figure it out, like I was at Bryce's today, and we did a glue pull, and the glue came off and broke, right? It left a little bit of glue on the car and a little bit on the tab. And simultaneously, both of us are like, waited too long, it's too cold. We're like, but 10 years ago, we were just like, it didn't work.
It doesn't work.
Right? So, but now that symptom is because of this cause, so you can fix it real fast. But definitely some things are worth revisiting. Some things were just not ready yet, right? And like, for example, in that set of Black Plague crease tabs, the little itty bitty one, it never was a winner. And it probably...
With the one bolt?
Yeah, the tiny one. It's like half an inch. It's just a little nubbin.
Yes, yep.
There's very limited situations where it works
Yes.
good. And the reason is it's like really convex. So when it's on the car, a very small part of it is touching the car. And that part has the little indentation where the glue sits. And that's just not the right design for that tab. So it wasn't a winner. But the one that's about 4 inches long that has one bolt in it,
that one was the money one.
That thing, the one that's like the width of your thumb or your finger, not the skinny one like a pen, but the thick one. It pulls an amazing crease with a mini lifter, but when you see it, it's just this big, giant piece of plastic, and it looks like it's overkill, but it actually pulls a really tight line. I think that one could come back into the spotlight now that everybody knows what they want and how to do it. There isn't another big crease tab that pulls a tight line like that that's that rigid and that long. The centipede tabs and stuff are usually, they have more flex and they're made more for like, a large format pull versus a sniper strike right there into a crease.
I think we're just kind of dumb, and we just need somebody to take a video of it, what the damage looks like, and boom, it work, and be like, okay, I'll buy that. I understand now.
Matt and I were just having that conversation earlier about some new tools.
Yeah.
Like, some of us can see better than others. Some of us can't see at all, and some of us like see everything. But most of us are somewhere in the middle, I think. And I definitely need to see some tools I look at and I go, I know exactly where I'd use that. Others, I'm like, that doesn't quite make sense to me. And then someone says, yeah, but think about this. And you go, oh, yeah.
This whole thing, I could understand it, but whenever he put these on there, then it came to life. Now I'm like, oh, okay, now that thing can go anywhere. Yeah.
Well, a lot of it is the context of the tool maker, like why you made it. What's the purpose? What's the intention? What's the thought process and where you're going to use it? And so that obviously helps besides just guessing. So anything you can have contextually that, we've been trying to do more content. We do as much as we possibly can. We are twisting the throttle, but ideally we wanted to be able to always be putting out content, showing people, why we designed a certain tool, where it's used, how to use it. That's one of the biggest things I've found, even in some of my advanced training that I do here, or beginner training, is guys more than advanced, because beginner guys don't know where to use any tool.
Right.
But advanced, you have to kind of peel back the layers for them and show them, no, this is how to use this. And once you do that, then you can see these lights come on, and you're trying to train them to think that way, because we kind of get so focused on thinking inside this box. And with PDR, you really have to think outside the box. I mean, it's always outside the box. With every car is different, every dent's different, every situation's different, and you're having to constantly think. And so trying to get guys to think that way, and then again showing them the tools and helping expand that for them, I think is totally valuable. And videos does that amazing.
Keith, we really got going here, but we want to go back. We want you to, like, where did you grow up? We want to go back. We want to hear the origin story.
All right. It's not that exciting, but I'll share it. So, born in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
A place called Redwood City.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like the weather's amazing down there. It's always cool. It's never hot. So, like, you just leave the house in a t-shirt and a windbreaker, and you're like ready to rock for everything. I never quite got over that. I think that's still like the ideal climate, that or San Diego. But my mother inherited her mother's house there, and even back in 1989, the market was stupid in relation to the other places. So they sold this house for all the money, even though it was just a regular little house.
What year were you born?
77.
Okay.
Late in like December of 77. So they took the money from the Bay Area, came up to Sacramento, bought a house and a business.
In a small town?
Not that small.
No, I'm saying bought a small town.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like millions of dollars, but, what were the real numbers? It was like mid or high 300,000s in 1989.
That's a lot back then.
A brand new tract home was 200 even. And then they bought a business for $150,000 or something, and then had some money to piss away after that, which is what my dad's set to doing. And then my dad is a gambling addict. He's passed away, but
what kind of business did they buy?
A pizza restaurant.
Oh, nice.
So my dad, okay, this is an interesting part of the story. My dad was never really successful, but he would start a business on like a moment's notice and just make it happen. He would just do it. So he had like carpet cleaning businesses and like juice businesses where he's like, making fresh juices. Like none of them were successful, but there's 100 more behind that story. The pizza place was the one successful thing he had. And since it was generating so much cash, he just pissed it all away at the casino and like just bankrupted the business. And then hawked the house that was paid for and then lost all that money too. So it was a crappy ending.
How was the pizza?
The pizza was amazing. because he paid some guy from another pizza restaurant to give him up the recipe. He like found the chef and he paid him $500 to give him the recipe from some other pizza place.
That's great.
But he was in addition to being a gambling addict, he was bipolar. So when he was on,
Wow. Yeah.
you're the party. You know, everybody's like, this dude's amazing. He's crazy. He's like standing on tables, singing New York, New York in this pizza place. And everybody would come there just to see him. But then when the pendulum swung the other way, you know, he's gone for 5 days and you find him in a casino and he hasn't eaten for crazy. So that the upbringing was volatile, but never like super destructive to me personally. I think my younger siblings, I'm the oldest of four, the younger ones got it a little worse than I did. But for me, it was like, okay, I need to just jump out of this scene as quickly as possible and start my own life, which I did. So I moved out at like 17, I think, got an apartment with some guys and just started doing my thing. And that's why I got into dent repair so early. Is like I really wanted to support myself, have a life of my own. So I was living in an apartment with some other guys, and I had
No desire to go to college? Like that wasn't even on your radar?
It wasn't on. Well, I did one semester of a community college. And I was always like, in high school, I felt, how do I want to word it? I was going to say I felt like I was better than the school, and that's not really true. It didn't fit anything that I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an attorney. So I just viewed like the whole system as a waste of time. And I don't think I'm like a genius or anything like that, but they had me in like the gifted and talented class in the elementary school, and the school was relatively easy for me. But I wasn't interested in doing it. So I would like, just blow everything off and take the test and get a B-, and that was cool. I didn't care what grade I got. I didn't care what GPA I got. But then when you get out of high school, there's like a lot of pressure to go to college because that's back in that day, that's what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to get a degree so you could get a good job,
Yep.
Yeah.
But
White collar.
yeah, but I wasn't really into it, but I thought, okay, maybe I'm missing out on something. So I went to work full time, just working at some warehouse. And then I took one semester at night at this community college. And I'll never forget this one class kind of like flipped my mindset, but it really like solidified what I was feeling, which is like, these really aren't my people. None of these people are like on a trajectory that I want to be on. This is like not my crew, And I was in some class. I don't even remember what the class was. I think it was an English class. And the teacher came in and she's totally what my kids would call out of pocket. She's totally off topic. And she starts talking about UPS drivers. And she's like, did you guys know how much money a UPS driver makes? And this is like 97 or something, right? And everybody's like guessing, and she's like, no, you're all wrong. They make $50,000 a year. And it was like you told the class they made $1 million a month. Everybody's like, what? Oh my gosh. What? And the teacher was like, I know. Like we're all idiots. You guys, the students, the teachers, the UPS guys are making all the money. And I remember like looking around thinking, I feel like I'm in a different world. I don't want to make $50,000. I don't want to drive a UPS truck. I don't want to teach this college class, and I don't want to be in this college class. I don't want any part of any of this. Even back then, I didn't think that was enough money to like do anything spectacular, So I was like, these are small-minded people, and I didn't necessarily have like dreams of building the next, Microsoft, but I definitely didn't think that getting a degree from the community college at night was going to change my life. So I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go to work. Because I also was into reading like the Motley Fool, like, that investment site that was kind of new, and like Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff. Yeah. So I was like, if you just put, $20,000 or $30,000 away when you're 20, you'll have $1 million if you leave it alone. So like, this is dumb. I'm just going to go earn some money so that I can do some things. So that's what I did. I just started working at kind of dumb jobs, chasing like $2 more an hour, from here to there. And then I was at a pool I was working at warehouses. So like, it's kind of like PDR. Like if you learn warehouses, you can work at any warehouse.
Yeah.
So it's like, because they're all the same.
It's just stuff.
It's just stuff. So you kind of can
Comes
get
in, goes out.
yeah. So you can kind of get stuck in an industry because you're like, well, I don't like this warehouse, but right across the street they're doing pool supplies. So like, yeah, all right, they'll hire you tomorrow, and it's like mid $20 an hour. So it was like not terrible money, but not career money.
Yeah.
So I was at this pool supply warehouse, and they had an accident, and one of the trucks spilled chlorine all over the place. And chlorine is interesting. I learned this there. Like you can go to the store and you can buy 5 gallons of chlorine and put it in your car and take it home. But if you commercially deliver 5 gallons of chlorine, you have to have all this hazmat certifications, a cleanup kit, and all this other stuff, right? So if you're delivering it, then it's hard. If you pick it up as a consumer, no big deal. You just dump it all on the street if you want. So one of their trucks got in an accident, dumped chlorine everywhere, and the driver didn't know what to do, didn't have the right stuff. So they got this huge fine, and they go, okay, all drivers are now going to have a Class A with a hazmat certificate or certification. And I was like, all right, sweet, dude. I'm going to get this Class A, and then I'm going to be able to drive liquid nitrogen around. I'm going to make like
Killing it.
I'm going to make $50 an hour, bro.
Yes, sir.
You have no idea how. So I'm like, sweet, man. I kind of just got lucky. And then in California, you have to be 21 to have a Class A license. And I was like 19. So they fired me. And I was like, all right, I'm done having jobs. I did nothing wrong and I got fired from a job. So like the idea of having a job is now like, might as well have cancer as far as I'm concerned, because you're equally as vulnerable. Like a job, you can be killed any day for no reason, no reason.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we just redid our budget and we want one less person out here sucking up our cash, so you're out. So it's like the idea of a secure job to me is crazy, unless you're a quarterback. You can be replaced super easy. So that's when I'm like, all right, I got to work for myself, because not that I think I have all the ideas, but I just don't want to get fired for no reason anymore. To me, I feel like working for yourself is the most secure thing you can do, So in high school, I had taken ROP classes. So that's where they send you off to work for a couple hours during the school day, and you kind of like see if you like these jobs. So I did engine machine work. So I worked at a machine shop for a little bit.
Wow.
And then I did like an engine diagnosis class, and then auto body. And after that, I was like, it was really cool because I went to the job site and saw all these dudes are miserable at work. They got ponytails and back braces, and they're just complaining all day.
Classic rock on the radio.
Yeah, the same 7 songs on repeat. Dude, how could you not be angry? Dude, I do fear the Reaper after those couple of years. But I was like, okay, cool. I like that I know these things, and I definitely don't want to do them for a living because these guys hate their lives. So I was like, the quest continues. I don't know what I want to do. But I was at a car show, and there was a dude saying he could take dents out without painting the panels. And I was like, seems like a scam. Because I just took the class.
Yeah.
And they didn't say anything about this. You're supposed to fill in the dents with Bondo and then paint them. But I'm like, it sounds like it's possible. So I was like intrigued about it. So then I just started reading up and looking for it. And then
So this guy just had like a booth at the car show?
Yeah, he was a marketer. So
did he have like a hood or panel that he was doing it at?
yeah, he did. He had an RX-7 door on a stand of all things. The first gen RX-7.
Wow.
I read one. I remember that. And we're like, can we watch you do it? And he'd make like little dings and fix them as a demo. And I remember him saying, if you have a Honda or Mazda, you can watch. If you have a Ferrari, you can't watch. He was an old dent wizard guy. He was one of the first. I didn't know the importance of that at the time, but he was one of the guys trained by Lido and one of the first guys that broke out and started his own thing. Like his license plate still said Dent Wiz on his truck. But he started this company called Dent Magic. I ended up working for him years later, but his demo was what got me kind of looking into it. And then I bought like an entrepreneur magazine. I'm like, maybe the secret to my future lies in this magazine. And in the back, there was an ad to learn dent repair.
Was it Small Businessman magazine?
I don't know, probably.
You know what that's from?
No.
The Office.
Oh.
Michael Scott, he subscribes to Small Businessman magazine, and you're like, is it a small man, like Small Businessman magazine?
It's like the opposite of the big and tall.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I got, it was a Ding King ad. The Ding King that's still around.
Yeah.
They had a training video.
Wow.
That's in Northern California still, right?
Southern.
Southern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So training video and tools. And I was like, that's it. I'll get the tools and I'll learn from the video and I'll be in business popping out dents, which is a term I hate now.
Yeah.
So I got the video.
Wow.
It said, all right, go to the edge of the hood, drill a hole. That's where you hang your S hook. You're going to get your leverage off that. And then make little circles and make some high spots. And it's funny now, but like when you don't know what you don't know. I was making some progress, but I didn't understand basic leverage. So I was like, since I didn't know what I was supposed to do, it said, pardon me, specifically use this tool and this S hook. So I'm like, okay, this tool and this S hook. And it's like make a hole on the edge of the hood. Okay. And now the tool's about this long. I still have it, right? So
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, they're great tools,
Yeah.
honestly. They're stainless. Like it's one of my favorite tools to this specific tool. So I've got a hood, right? It's from me to you. I've got a tool this long, and I've got an S hook on the edge of the hood, and I'm trying to push something in the middle of the hood, right? I have a reduced leverage by like 10x. So I'm like, ooh, pushing like as hard as I can to get one little high spot to come up. I'm like, dude, this is way harder than it looks. Like you have to push super hard. So I was like never quite getting it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, they're easier on the edge. And I was starting to put it together, but still like missing some key components. And the reflections were awful. It was like bare fluorescent tubes, you know.
Is that what you had? Was it like a 4-foot light?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like similar to the stands now, not that different, but just a
One
fluorescent.
that Dean King provided?
Yeah.
You bought from them?
Yeah, it came with my kit and my training.
110, plug it in?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So like I saw enough progress that I got excited about it, but I wasn't going to figure it out by myself. Like nobody really figures out dent repair by themselves. I mean, maybe somebody, but mostly nobody. But I got super pumped about it. So I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing now. I just have to figure out how I'm going to do it. And one of my high school buddies was a porter at the Mercedes dealer. And he was all into that job. You know, he was like, he loved the cars, loved the job. He knew everybody. He's high-fiving people. He gets to drive Mercedes every day. He's like, he was in his happy place. So he had a good relationship with their dent repair guy, which was a partner of the guy I talked about earlier at the trade show. So he got me the guy's cell phone number. I called him. I'm like, hey, I'm learning this by myself. I want to come work for you. I want you. I probably said all the things that somebody would say to you now that you wouldn't call back. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you to like train me all the way, and then I'm going to own my own business.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, cool. Why don't you come by?
How old were you been?
8 and 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So but once the dude was nice to me, so I called him back literally every day until he's like, all right, dude, just come down here. Like, you're not going to stop calling me. So I came down there, and then, we hit it off.
Was it a shop?
It was a shop. They had a shop. They had a good little business. They had a shop and a bunch of mobile work because there was very few competitors back then.
Yeah.
And they had, I think when I came on, there was like 5 or 6 techs. At one point, there was up to 12 when I was still there. But I just took to it really well. It was cool because there was 5 guys, and I got to spend time with each one of them. And some of them were awful, and some of them were great. So I really got to look and see, like, okay, I'm definitely not going to do whatever this guy does because his cars look terrible. And I'm going to do more like what this guy does because his looks good. And then this guy's numbers are bad because when he shows up to the dealership, he has a Mountain Dew and a pack of cigarettes and a newspaper for 2 hours in his truck. This guy's numbers are great because he gets out of the truck running. So I'm like, okay, I'm like just taking the best of the best and leaving the worst of the worst. So I ended up just excelling at that. I was actually an awful employee at all the jobs I had previous to that because they were all dead-end jobs. It's the opposite advice I give my kid. So I was like, I'm washing dishes at a restaurant. I'm like, I don't care about this place. It's awful. I don't want to work here at all. I just took this job to make some money. And my kid works at our gym, right? So we see him every morning. And I'm like, hey, Liam, he's a trainer, right? So he runs the classes. And I came out of the bathroom like, hey, Liam, the soap's out in the bathroom. He's like, it's not my job. And I'm like, hey, man, That's not the attitude to winning in life, dude. Everything here is your job. I was like, oh, wait, that's kind of the same kind of idiot when I was a kid. But until you get to the place where you feel like you're rewarded for your expertise and you feel like you have room to grow, I think it's natural to just kind of be checked out. It's like dating somebody who you know you're never going to marry. You're like, well, whatever. I don't really care what happens after this because I know it has a finite end point. But when you do something that you want to take all the way, you're all in. And I was for dance. I was all in. So I probably would have worked for that dude forever because he was a pretty good employer, and I felt grateful to him that he gave me a shot and trained me. And he was a really great tech and taught me a lot about the interpersonal dynamics of the business, making the relationships at dealerships. That wasn't something that necessarily came natural to me. So this guy taught me that stuff.
So what did training look like?
It was very informal. It was just like, hey, shadow me. Okay, so that's not true. Initially, it was stay on this door all day in the shop and put dents in and take them out. And listen.
Upside down or?
Yeah, it was get it down right side up first, but upside down was a thing. I'm an upside down dude. But that's where my hatred of classic rock started because I was on that freaking door. And I remember like one day specifically, I had a daydream of like ripping the door off the stand and like throwing it in the street, paint side down, and just like skidding it all the way down the street. Because like you get to the point where you know what you're supposed to do, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? You know you're supposed to push the bottom and you just miss it and miss it and miss it. And like you just do it over and over and over. And there's nothing that anybody can come do to save you. You're like, when you call for help, they're like, yeah, just push up the bottom, dude. There's nothing. I can't help you anymore. I've told you what to do. You just have to suck at it long enough that you start to figure it out. You hope they're going to come over and go, no. Look, you have your hand like that, right? It's not like jiu-jitsu where like they can just fix one thing and it all makes sense. It's like, no, dude, you just have to suck at it long enough and be like gritty enough that you're going to get it. So that's what they did to me first. Is almost like a basic training. Like, hey, if you can make it through a month of every 8-hour days on a door, then you can get to the point where you're fixing stuff. So I started to get a little bit cocky, like I was starting to get some stuff out. But do you guys remember the stage in your career where you could get them out pretty good a lot of the times, but you were scared to knock it back down and do it again because you weren't sure you could get it back to that. So it's like a lucky shot.
Guys would always tell me like, open it back up. You locked it up and open it up. I'm like, no,
dude, it's good.
Too much investment.
Right here is like where we're gonna stay. I'm gonna go ahead and cash out right here. Yeah. So I started to get a little bit cocky because I was doing okay, and then we had a retail guy come in, and the boss was like at a dealership, and I'm like, I got this one, dude. All right. I know how to bid them. I know how to do this one. And it was like a 92 4-door Civic. So picture that car. Had that little tiny belt molding down low. And this was like a little crease beneath the belt molding into the back edge of the rear door. And I was like, all right, I think I can do this. Drill a hole right, even with the crease, and then get down and look right down the crease. And like, that looks awesome, dude. Just like, I nailed it. And maybe just like sanded a little bit. So I'm like, hit it with the buffer, and it's like chrome. The paint gone down to the metal, dude. Like polished metal, and the bottom of the dent's all still there. And I was like,
wow.
I have no idea what to do. Like, just start sweating is all I could do. My boss came back. I'm like, okay, so here's what's going on. He was so pissed at me.
What had happened was,
So interesting thing, the dent wasn't quite flat.
Wow.
I remember the solution. He got touch-up paint from the dealership, which was like around the corner, and like fixed the dent, put the touch-up paint on it, and let the kid roll. And he's like, yeah, I guess it's all right.
The guy was happy with it? He was fine?
Yeah, he was like an easygoing young kid. He's like, yeah, it's cool.
Wow.
What year about was this?
It had to be like 92 or something.
And so that's crazy. You were immediately in a retail situation.
I put myself in one. I was not invited to be in one. I was training on a door, and the dude showed up, and I got Big britches.
But that business had a retail presence.
Yeah, they were
back then.
they were way ahead of the times. The pricing wasn't. It was $59, $79, and $89 were the 3 pricing tiers.
Wow.
But you weren't fixing big stuff.
That's the thing. Yeah, you weren't fixing like stuff we fix now.
Yeah,
like we don't say no to anything now.
No,
which is dumb.
I just send that stuff to Matt. I keep
I need to say no to a lot more.
of the stuff I send to you.
Just in general. Just in general.
I mean, there is the thing, right, where you don't get better without walking off the cliff a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, because you keep extending the cliff every time you walk off of it. So you have to keep doing that stuff that you hate in order to get better than what you were before.
That's what I love about this industry is like the personal growth is always there. No matter how long you've been in it, there's always room to grow. There's no ceiling. There's no like cap. As you grow and develop in your abilities, then your abilities, the things you can fix. I mean, we're only continuing to blend the line between PDR and collision. I mean, it's just continually pushing that boundary further and further and further. And I mean, there's amazing technicians out there doing it every day. When it used to be a handful, now there's so many technicians who can do next level, amazing, crazy work.
It used to be there was one good guy in every town. It's like, if you don't see, Matt, good luck. Now, I hate to say it because it sucks for me as a business in my local market, but there's 10 guys in my town that could do a badass repair.
Yeah.
It's very common now. Tools are better. The information's better. Like people see what's possible and then they push themselves like a 4-minute mile kind of thing. I liked it better when I was the only guy that could make it right. I can tell you that much.
I say that the learning curve has gotten way accelerated in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
Like it's
true.
I mean, there's so many good techs that if you'd looked at me year 5, I mean, I was nothing compared to year 5 guys now who are fixing crazy stuff. I mean, my Instagram is full of them. I'm friends with them. Some have been on the show, and it's like
Bones.
what they can do at year 5.
I mean, is he even 5 years in?
Maybe.
It's wild.
He came from a body shop, didn't he?
Yeah, and that helps. But still, I mean, there's a skill of PDR that you have to
for
get,
sure.
and what they can do is just I don't comprehend that as far as what the time, because I know where I was at 5 years in, and it's like,
Well, just the lighting alone, when you can see the way we can see now with the LED lights, that's a huge part of it. We had plastic boards that we spray painted lines on. And it was like some dark art to get your spray painted line just right so that you could have the right fade.
It's in. So we have some Tom Price old DVDs.
Yeah.
And in one of his videos, he teaches you how to do the spray paint line down it. And it's one of those like 3-foot boards.
Yeah. You bungee cord it to a ladder or something.
I think I said on the show that I used to drive around town buying bicycle kickstands just to get the little plastic thing off the end because we didn't have tips.
Oh my
tips that
goodness.
screwed on. Yeah, I'd go. The bike shop's still right there on Phillips Highway.
You just go in there and pop those
I just
things
wanted
off.
that. They wouldn't sell you that. They'd sell you the kickstands like $15, but I wanted to get those caps because I was trying to find a better cap. Just pursuing, a better tip for my Johnson.
It was called a Johnson.
It was, but there was no.
Yeah.
It wasn't as available as it is. Maybe there was some, and Tom could allude to what. But we didn't have internet as far as what tools were available.
Yeah.
And what times they were available, like what years. I don't know.
The internet is the reason.
But my
for all
head
this.
was in the sand as far as what's available with the PDR. We didn't have the internet, and you'd get a catalog in the mail. But I'd go. You're always hunting, trying to find something that fit the solution for you, or you're building something. I was building tools.
Yeah, there was all these stories of guys taking those like springs out of deck lids because of the spring steel, or like antennas, and like making their own wire tools.
That's
This is what you did.
What our industry came from.
Yeah, part of my training was like, all right, now you got to learn how to make a tool.
Yeah.
You got to make your own tools. All right, but it's a cool skill to have.
It is cool.
I still have a big case of all my knockdowns I made. They're in the back of my van. I mean, because that's what I had to use.
Made of Delrin.
No, I have deer antler ones.
All right.
I have
Wood dowel. You were into
I got
that for a
pencil
while.
sharpener and wood dowel and pencil sharpener. You can go a long way.
Unicorn tooth.
That's expensive.
I found one of those. I got alligator leg bones.
You went to Ollivanders to get his.
I got all kinds of little weird stuff that I played with. But
When's the first time you saw metal tap down?
Dent Wizard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dent Wizard had a kind of a dull one though. It's a blunt metal. But Dent Wizard, that was a standard issue.
Was your training on the master tool?
No, I wasn't Dent Wizard trained.
Oh, you weren't?
No, I started with another company and then went to Dent Wizard. So, but they tried, pushing that on you. But I was already fixing dents. But I didn't train with a master. I was always.
My training
did.
was, yeah, mine was too.
I still have my original knockdown if you want to see it.
Do you?
Yeah, it's Delrin. It's all dry rotted. So if you hit it, it's probably going to be dust. But I still have it. It's in my van.
The master tool, that's one that's probably not making a comeback. That's an awful idea. Let me just push on this panel super hard with this piece of metal until I slip. That's awful.
Yeah.
Well, it taught a lot. There was a lot of fundamental things that got taught. And I would say, if you look at Sal, how he uses his tapping dolly, slapper tapper, there's a lot. There are some blend over fundamentals I think you could take from a master tool. But it's definitely obsolete in how you would use it.
Were you taught to hit the panel with it?
No.
No.
We were
You're smashing your knuckles on it. Yeah.
When we had
That sheet,
Jonathan, when we had Jonathan Balderrama in,
that sheet is
brought that in, but he had this little handheld master where it was way easier that they had, somebody invented that. Lido probably invented that way back in the day, but I feel like the training with the master was almost like part of how you just earned paid your dues. Like you got to learn the old ways before you learn hammer and knockdown.
Yeah.
So that's at Dent Wizard. They made you use that for like the first month, and then they let you hammer and knockdown. So it was almost like
They wanted you to learn the feel of the metal.
yeah.
I didn't even get a hammer. I got issued a knockdown, but there was no hammer. It was like a plastic screwdriver handle that we would use to hit the. I still have that too
With ADS.
with ADS.
Oh, wow.
And you would just hit the knockdown with
They're
the.
like, hey, should I give the new guy a hammer? Like, no, he's gonna mess.
Give
some
him a
stuff up. Just
screwdriver.
Give him a screwdriver. Tell him to hold it backwards.
I don't remember. Hammers being a thing until when I went to Dent Wizard and they would issue you hammers.
This is a hammer. Ooh, wow.
No.
How did I not think of this?
Yeah. Now I think about how much I use hammers now on my PDR. I mean, every
How much money you think you got invested in hammers?
a lot. And I use, and that's what's weird is I use I've seen guys, and I mean it's all preference, right? But I have probably 20 hammers in my pack out that I use every day, meaning back and forth. But I need them. They all have different usages, as opposed to some guys who are like, this is the only hammer I use. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you have to somehow broaden the tool range there at some point. That one hammer is only going to get you out of so many situations. You got to. So I use those hammers. I've turned into a hammer nerd for sure because hammers and knockdowns. I mean, those are, to me, those really capture the art of PDR. That's really tactile, the art of PDR. That's the finesse in there. The tools too also, but that's really, I think, where there's a lot you can do with that.
So you just blasted through this crease. Your boss touched it up. Then what happened?
Back to the training for me, but it was a good learning lesson. Like you're not good. You have a lot to learn. You can learn to make a basic little round dent flat. Great. Now there's creases and creases down low and all kinds of stuff. So it was an awful situation, but it was eye opening for me in retrospect. I had a lot of humility after that. Like realized whatever you know, there's a lot still that you don't know. Like we were just having this conversation earlier. Okay, you can fix this dent here. Now let's move it here. And now let's move it here. And now let's move it here. And it's 5 completely different techniques, same dent, move it around, sometimes on the same panel. Right? Just put in the middle of the quarter panel. Now put it in the dog leg. Now put it in the sail panel. And now put it right next to the light. Each one has its own challenges, and that one tool is going to cross over on any of them. So I loved that aspect, that it was like a puzzle all the time. And I got pretty good at it. So, I blasted through that. But then went and spent time in the trucks with the other guys and started working. I wasn't like a phenom or anything like that, but I wanted to be the best. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make, I loved the idea that the more I worked, the more money I could make. Like, this makes sense to me finally. And so, like, hourly work, or I just show up. I had this job in a warehouse when I was like 16, and I would show up perpetually like 15 to 20 minutes late. And the manager sits me down. He's like, do you want me to just make your start time like 8:15 or 8:30? I'm like, oh, I think I'll still show up late because I don't really want to be here. This is like, there's just no future. Like, it's $8 an hour, no matter if you're alive or dead, no matter how hard you work or don't work. And then the dude gave me a nickel tip or a nickel raise at the end of the year. I was like, all right, I got you. I'm out. Thank you for the help. Yeah. So yeah, after that, I was jamming. I was making money for those guys. They had a cool system where if you trained guys and kind of like mentored them, you'd make a commission on their production. So I liked that. I was like, oh, I can make a career out of this. Pretty cool. And we had the dominant company in the area, so that's a fun team to be on. But then there was a Colors on Parade guy who had like 20 trucks, and he wanted to grow. He wanted to add dents, so he bought this company. But problem was he overextended himself. So he bought it, but he didn't pay for it. He went BK. So the original guy never got paid. This guy squandered the company. But before that all washed out, I didn't like the Colors on Parade guy, so I bounced to start my own company. Like, I didn't have any loyalty to him. I had loyalty
Right when the buyout happened?
Shortly after. I stuck it out for a couple months, and I just didn't like how the guy rolled. He was shady, and he turned out to be super shady and, like, broke a bunch of promises. And rough story for that guy because he had a good business going. 21 COP trucks is a pretty good operation. He was their area developer, they call him. It's like, owned the area.
I didn't know they were West Coast too, because we had Colors on Parade here.
Yeah, they did a good job growing that company. I don't know. They're still around in a lot of places.
They've morphed into Car Love.
Yeah, the new name.
Wow. I have the cards on my fingers.
I did notice them, yeah. There's still Colors on Parade guys in that same town, in my town, that are doing dents now. But
what happened to the owner?
Which
the
one?
PDR owner? He just got kind of bought out and he went away.
Yeah, I actually years later he called me to do a retail dent for him, and he was like, he always thought he was or thought he was, I don't know which one it was, but better than PDR. He was a good tech, but he was a corporate headhunter was his job initially. He's like a big, tall, kind of like a UC school system kind of guy. His wife was an attorney, and he's doing this corporate headhunting gig. And then the original dent repair guy's name was Jim Hapgood. He called the headhunter to try to find another technician. And this guy's like, sounds like a pretty cool business. Maybe I want to do this job. So he came on, learned how to do the job, and then bought in as a partner, and then bought the original Dent Wizard guy completely out. He stayed on as a tech because he had all these ideas about inventing different tools and stuff, not PDR stuff. So he cashed out. New guy became the sole owner, and then he sold to the other guy and just got out of the business. And I think he was doing some kind of desk corporate job when I ran into him. It was kind of interesting. Like, he was a good tech, had a good company, and he got out and never looked back, didn't care about it. I'm like, why are you hiring me? You could do this. He's like, it's been years since I touched tools. I'm sure you could do it better. I'm like, interesting.
Wow.
All right. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, PDR is it's an interesting industry. It kind of, there's almost everything about it is great, but it is like a little bit of a bunch of little ants fighting over the same piece of bread sometimes, like everybody's in the same market thinking we're all on top of each other, trying to take accounts from each other, but it's like, it's a big world out there. There's a lot of ways to make money, even in PDR. There's so many different places you could go, like from working inside the plants to chasing hail in other countries to doing, developing teams for dealer groups. There's like a million different ways you could do PDR. But all of us in every given market are just worried about, I think I saw James in my account today. The guy's the worst, man. It's trying to take my business. And you kind of like when people get into that mindset, it's not hard to understand how they'd want to get out.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait. Like, you've seen people make posts like, how much money would you need to have before you never pushed a dent again? And some people are like, I love pushing dents. Even if I had all the money, I'd probably still fix a couple cars a week. Where other guys are like, give me a check for $9,000. I'll never touch another car in my life, dude. There's some guys that like, it's just a way to make money. They would very much like to not do it. And I'm not mad at them either. It's like, it's not something everybody wants to do. Me personally, I think I would still like to fix a couple cars a year. It's fun to do. It's fun to make something ugly, flat, and nice and pretty again. But grinding out on dents all day, I think my time has passed for that. I'm not super interested in like just chasing sheet metal all day, day in and day out. Because as lucrative as it is, it's a little bit of a dead end. You can never. There's a ceiling on how much you can produce in a day, and it's like probably a lot higher than what I've ever achieved. But it is there at some point. Nobody's going to pay you $50,000 an hour to do dents. You can probably get $4,000 or $5,000 an hour, right, in the right situation, but not 50. So at some point, you're going to cap out on your production. So if you're like wanting to like perpetually grow, you end up making a podcast or tools. You just like doing extra things because like we're creative guys. We get our creativity out on the sheet metal, and then like at some point it's satisfying, but it's not hard anymore. It's not like each dent might be a little challenging, but you're not going to like totally double your dent repair knowledge next year. So you have all this creativity still. So you just like keep bringing on new things and solving the problems tools wise. That's how the Black Plague tab started. I didn't really want to be the tab magnate, but I was like, this glue pulling's cool. There's no tabs for creases. That's dumb. I think it would work. And why doesn't one exist? So I start making prototypes. Like, this works. I want this as a tool. So I'm going to make it for everybody else. So it's just like fulfilling that creativity in other ways other than like your two hands grinding it out. And part of it is just like so many years on your body. It does get to you after a while. The reason I stopped at purple belt in jiu-jitsu is because I blew out my back. And part of that is from dents. Just being bent over. I'm an upside down door guy working at dealers. So like spent literally like a third of my day inverted. And when you're younger, it doesn't matter. When you're 30, you're like, oh man, my back's kind of tight. When you're 40, you're like, my back really freaking hurts today. And then it got so bad. I got bad in a jiu-jitsu accident, like just a stupid little twist and something popped in my back. And then my back was like a pain level 8 or 9 all the time. The only thing I could do well was sleep. I couldn't do
Well, that's awesome.
I was grateful for that, honestly, because there's people that can't sleep.
Yes.
Like, your life would get really bad. But I couldn't do a sit-up. I couldn't do a burpee. Like,
for how long until?
Years.
Oh, my
years.
goodness.
Like, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. So I went.
About what year was that?
So it's hard for me to do long time frames. But I was like, something, I can't remember what it was, but I read something or saw something that I talked about, and it was like, whoa, that's like over 5 years ago, and I was complaining of my back really hurting. I had been dealing with it for a long, long time. So it was hurting. I don't know if you guys have like a part of your back like that goes out.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I did it. I threw my back out. And like a few days later, it's better. And you're like, oh man, all right, that sucked, but I'm better now. I had that. And then it went from like once a year to 5 times a year to 9 times a year to basically it just never stopped. So it was like this long progressive thing. It had this one jiu-jitsu injury that like exacerbated, but it didn't create it. But after that is when I couldn't do sit-ups and I like couldn't get off of, I could do bench press and I'd have to like roll sideways off of it because I couldn't lift myself off of it. So I was like, all right, I got to do something drastic to fix this. I can't go on pain meds and end up like a drug addict. So,
where did you do jiu-jitsu at, and what time? Like, what was your time span? Like, when did you start it?
Again, I'm awful with the long-term dates. I had a buddy who was at a body shop. It was a body shop I serviced like every day, and we were both huge UFC fans. So whenever we'd hang out, we'd just talk all about fighting. It was the heyday of fighting. Chuck Liddell's knocking people out, and like, the Gracies are choking dudes, and you're like, oh man, this stuff is so cool. And he's like, I'm starting to do jiu-jitsu. I'm like, oh, dude, I would love to do jiu-jitsu, but if I like break my hands or something, or someone breaks my elbow, I can't work. So I can't do jiu-jitsu at all. Like I'm all in for dents all day. So I'd see him the next day, and he's like, yeah, I went to training last night. And after like 3 or 4 months, he was never hurt. And I'm like, maybe you can do this without like getting hurt. So I went to his gym, and you're a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, but I haven't been in about a year.
Yeah. So
for the same reasons that you're talking about.
right. So his school happened to be a Hicks and Gracie black belt was teaching the school, which is a kind of a rare thing. It's like a pretty highly regarded black belt is Hicks and Gracie. So I went to his school and I just fell in love with it. Like these guys they're beating me up so bad, and I have no idea what they're doing to me. This is like it's like they know a magic spell, and they're going to teach me. If I pay money and keep coming, they'll teach me. Like I got it. Like this is Jason Bourne stuff to me.
Yeah.
Like they're just with their bare hands, or they're just making me quit or choking me unconscious. I was like getting choked out and like smiling about it because I'm like, I'm going to learn this, dude. This is so freaking cool. And it was. I learned it. I was freaking loved it. And so my son is 18 now. So I think I started when he was like, okay, so I started in 2003 or 2004.
Wow, that was a little
Yeah.
way back in the day.
I remember because we had a house change in 2005, and the new house was farther away, and I didn't want to drive that far to go to the old school. So then I went to a couple different schools for the next 10 years, 11 years. So like, but I was never like a 3 or 4 day consistent a week guy because I was so interested in my dent business. It was hard to like take time off and go work out. I'd sneak away sometimes during the day and always felt a lot of guilt about it because like you can't, jiu-jitsu is exhausting.
Yeah.
So you can't go to the 10:30 class and then like show up for a customer at 1 o'clock all smoked and your face is all red and you're sweaty and you don't even feel like being out there because you like left it all on the mat. So I would do that sometimes and like have an awful monetary day, but a fun day, and think this is like I'm robbing from my family by not working. Like I should out here dorking around.
So you did it for about 10, 12 years?
Yeah, probably about 10 or 12 is accurate. And like, and there was periods when I was like all over it thinking I'm going to be the next black belt. And then periods where I was like, a couple times a week is fine.
Yeah.
I probably quit like 700 times in my mind, like leaving the gym after you got your ass kicked. I'm like, I'm freaking done with this, dude. This is stupid. And then the next day I'm like, all right, I'm going back in.
It's tough.
But so the back injury, I want to share this because it's important for people who are suffering from back pain. So I went to see a surgeon. We have Kaiser as insurance, and they were pushing like they put me on antidepressants, or they tried to, like all kinds of pills. And I'm like, I don't need antidepressants for nerve pain. Like there's something in my back that's causing it. I don't need you to like medicate my brain so that I don't know there's a problem. So I'm like, I need to see the surgeon because I have a physical problem in my back. So if they're like reluctant, they have to go through all these like, procedures and like try to gatekeep because they don't want to spend the money. But finally did get to see the surgeon. He was like a highly regarded surgeon in the area. And he looked at my MRIs and he's like, oh yeah, you need a fusion. We need to fuse your vertebrae in your low back. And I was like, well, I heard about this fusions. Like, sounds like this would solve my problem. But he had all the hardware out on the table, and it's like bolts, like lag bolts and bars. And it's like a collection of stuff you couldn't put in your pocket. And I'm just like, that's never coming out of my spine if you put it in there for my whole life. They put the lag bolts in, and then they have bars, and then they clamp the bars to the bolts, and then they pack bone material on top of the bolts so they like get entombed inside your vertebrae. And then they take the middle disc out that they're fusing and put this titanium cage in there so that the bone grows all through and like fuses those two vertebrae.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I can sleep. I can reproduce. I don't know if I want to risk what I have now for that stuff in my back.
Yeah.
If it gets to the next level and I can't sleep and like my life is completely compromised, maybe I'll come back here, but I'm going to try something else. So I'd heard about all these stem cell guys on all the UFC, circuit, either Joe Rogan podcast or, at the shows, they're talking about this CPI because it's run by a guy who's been in and around the fight scene forever. This guy used to run this website called On the Mat for MMA stuff, and his partner was the guy that owned Game Niskis back in the day. Mm-hmm. So these guys they started this stem cell clinic down in Tijuana. But all the guys that were coming back from there and saying they're great were like fighters. And I'm like, oh, that seems promising. But also these guys are on TV and they're probably getting their treatments for free. and someone has a camera in their face saying, "Did you love it?" You know, and they're like, "Yeah, man, this is the best." So I was like super skeptical that it was a real thing. But then a guy at my gym, like a guy who's in pretty good shape, was there every day. And because I was still trying to work out this whole time. So I'm like trying to do everything I could do. I just couldn't do a lot of I couldn't do squats. I couldn't do burpees, but I could do, upper body and, leg extensions and stuff. So this guy at my gym kind of disappeared for a few months and then came back. And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I went and got stem cells in my shoulder. They wanted to do shoulder surgery and I got stem cells." And he's like, "My shoulder's like 100%. It's amazing." And I'm like, "Oh, this is like a real option." This is the first real person I met who had real results from it. So I started talking to these guys and decided to go have my back shot up with stem cells down in Tijuana. And that was like about 15 months ago. And the first 6 to 9 months, it was better, but not like miraculous. And then I started doing PT with a dedicated sports PT guy. And then right around the 1 year mark, my back is probably 95, 98% better. It's not perfect, but I don't know if my back will ever be perfect because I'm old and I put it through a lot of abuse, and there's a lot of stuff going on with it. Not just one. It's not like a beautiful spine with one blown out disc. It's all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I can do all that stuff that I couldn't do before. I can do sit-ups. I can do burpees. I can run. I can do basically everything. And just once in a while, it'll be a little tight for a couple minutes, and then that's it.
It doesn't fire up with work like doing dents,
If I go upside down, it's angry. But then when I go back, it's fine. I mean, it's not a superhero back. I did hurt it doing I was doing a crush, and I was over like this, all day in the lower part of a quarter on a Camaro. And I was just stuck, and I couldn't get out of this position because the thing was mangled. And the next day I was like, "Oh man, this sucks." But then the day after that, I was like, fine again. So it's like a normal back that you can still overwork. And
you're not in constant pain.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
So it's about $30,000 to do it. So I think it's expensive compared to the normal things you buy. But if you think about the years of pain, if you could have paid $300 a month for the last 10 years to not be in any of that pain. So,
or your longevity, continue what you're doing to make money.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing.
So I share it because I know there's a lot of people dealing with chronic injuries in this profession, and most of us have a few bucks in our pocket or have the ability at least to replace it. Like if you had a $30,000 expense, you could find a way to work harder and pay for it. Or a normal job, you just make what you make. You can't make an extra $35,000 in 6 months if you wanted to, but we could by working weekends and everything. So it's worth looking at if you're dealing with a chronic illness.
So that's a once and done. There's not a main maintenance regime you get on.
Once and done. They did a couple of things. I had bicep tendonitis in the top of my forearm from doing way too much pulling. So even if I would have just reached and grabbed this like this, it would searing pain in my forearm, and one shot in there. And I was dealing with that chronically for 3 or 4 years. One shot in there, and it's been money since that. I don't know if it's good forever. I'll ask me in 5 years, but.
Do you know how that differs from the PRP?
I'll speak in the terms that I understand. I'm not a medicine guy, but PRP is platelet-rich plasma. So it's like your blood kind of spun out, and then it's highly concentrated platelets, and they put it back, and it kind of does its thing. Brings more blood or oxygen to your tissue, I guess. But the stem cells, and specifically the stem cells in Mexico, the reason they're done there and not here is in the States, you can't grow more stem cells in a lab and then inject them in a person. They can take them out of your hip, your bone marrow, isolate them and put them in your shoulder in the States. That's legal. But they're not approved to take someone else's stem cells, grow 100 billion of them, and jam them all into your back. And that's what they can do in Mexico. So they can put huge volumes of stem cells. And what the stem cells do, again, take my definition with a grain of salt, but the stem cell is like the building block of all tissue. It's like the wild card. It can be any tissue. It can transform into anything. So when the stem cell is placed upon a vertebral disc, it will become disc tissue. Or if it's put in a bicep, it will become bicep tissue. So it can repair all kinds of damage, all kinds of inflammation that you have. but it physically has to be put on top of it. And then the stems are like, oh, what are we doing here? Oh, we're being bicep tissue. All right, let's do it. But it's foreign tissue, from a cellular level. So when they put it in your back, you have to chill out for months, right? Because they're basically just like inflating your vertebrae with all this fluid. And it's just like when a baby's conceived, it's not a baby for a while. It's just a clump of cells until it has some shape, then it has a structure, and then it becomes strong. And it takes it takes 9 months, and then another 3 months for it to be a baby that can walk around under its own weight. So if you think about the same way, these cells are going into your disc, they're chilling out there for a few months, they're kind of becoming disc tissue, but they have to develop, and then they have to develop and get stronger, and then you have to build some strength into them before it's like a functional back that you could jump around and do cartwheels. Yeah. So they tell you, if you go home and you're out of pain right away, because some people have like no pain right away, and you start doing dumb stuff, he's like, you're going to be right back here, because you're almost more vulnerable because your discs are inflated and they're not strong. So he's like, I had one guy, he's giving us like a little pep talk before we went home to the whole group, and he's like, I tell you what you can do. The list of things you can't do is infinite, so I don't have a whole list of things you can't do. He's like, just treat your back like it's a newborn baby. He's like, I had a guy who was pain-free. He was a construction dude, got in the back of his truck, picked up 2 toolboxes, and then jumped out. And he's like, he jumped out, blew his disc out, ended up in the emergency room, and he's like, he's worse than he was before. He's like, if you just don't do dumb stuff, you'll be fine. So I was like, I didn't do anything, no exercise for a few months, and then like took it super slow coming back, but it was worth it. So I just want to make sure people know that this is an option for them.
I have back issues, but mine aren't spinal.
Spinal.
They're more muscle supportive.
I broke my back.
My back is broken.
Such a good reel.
So good.
But yeah, mine are just muscles that I think I just need to rehab in a better way than what I'm doing now. But yeah, they're not. Thankfully, I don't believe they're discs. I'm on a chiropractor too that I go to, and he does the X-rays and helps me manage all that stuff. I've been trying to think of my body as a tool that I have to maintain and keep in good shape if I want to continue to use it.
Yeah, it's important.
It is.
So back to your PDR journey, when you're on your own, one man show.
Yep.
And then you decided to grow. Maybe like for guys that are maybe one man show, they're thinking about, should I make the jump and hire somebody, grow this business? Like, what would you tell them? Or like, how is life better? How is life worse? How does life change?
It's like, there's not one answer for that, because it really depends on the people you get. And I definitely don't have like a victim mentality, and I feel like everything I experience in life is what I deserve, because that's the way it's the decisions I'm making or result in the way my life goes. But I do like this saying. I don't know who gets credit for it initially, but the saying is, if you take a starving dog off the street and make him prosperous, he will not bite you. And that's the main difference between a dog and a man. A man will do you wrong eventually at some point. Like, it's just human nature to want more and more and more. So I don't feel like anybody has screwed me over in business at all. But when this trade is hard to grow, because everybody wants to progress as a person, and especially as a man and as a provider, you want to keep progressing. And there gets to be a point in the business, if it's small, where they kind of can't grow anymore underneath you, and their only way to grow is to either consume you or to leave you. And that's like an inevitable thing that's going to happen, unless you find like a really special person, and maybe that person is only special because they feel guilty and they feel like they're in debt to you for giving them an opportunity. But maybe when they go home to their wife, they're saying, I just wish one day that I could, make 100%. And so I definitely would do it again. I would hire people, because when you're I hired people almost out of necessity, because I ran a great business. I mean, if you want to call it a business when you're by yourself, I think it's you're kind of glorifying it by calling it a business when you're doing everything. It's like, it's not really a business. It's just a job. And you're doing a really good job at your job, but it's not a real business. Yeah, you manage a website and a Google listing, but like you have no products that you're trying to buy, no forecasting. There's no food that expires. There's like, it's not a real business. It's a business.
You're the business.
You're the whole business.
Without you, there's nothing's there.
So not to discount it, because I think it's rad. I think that's actually what makes it amazing, right? Because there isn't anything. Especially, Matt, you can probably attest to this. The more complicated your business gets with your tools and everything else, the more you appreciate how clean a dent repair business is, where you like, they show up, you do the estimate, you do the dent, you get the money, and that's it. End of story. The whole thing's over. You didn't have to talk about suppliers or deal with stuff stuck in customs or, shipping problems or returns. Like, everybody's like, wants to think that this is a super competitive, hard to run business. It's really super duper simple. That's why every city and every state has a couple of dent guys with 150 or 500 5-star reviews. What other business has 100 or 500 5-star reviews? Somebody's pissed about everything, right? Like, I can't think of another business that has consistently as high reviews. Because it's like pretty easy to make people happy with dent repair. You just show up on time, you say what you're going to do, and you do it, and you don't change the prices, and people give you 5 stars.
I think that the type of people who are getting dent repairs done are, and I'm going to generalize it, are successful people who have disposable income, who can afford to have dents done, and they usually have nice cars. And I think when they get a dent, there's something mental that happens that they're dissatisfied. It's not about the dent. It's about this isn't right.
Yeah.
And so you're fixing the dent, but you're also doing something in their mind or their soul. You're correcting something that's out of whack. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think you get the good 5 stars is because you're not just fixing the metal. You're mending something.
You're realigning
emotionally.
Their chi.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, you can see it on some of the repair. I even joke with people. I'm like, hey, because let's just say the wife dents the husband's car, or the guy who just bought his car who backed it in the garage, and as soon as he's pulling in, he dents it when he gets home. Like, they're distraught. Mm-hmm. They're distraught. And they come in, they're distraught. I'm like, listen, I charge this much for the PDR. I charge extra for the emotional repair. And like, what do you, and that, kind of laugh it off or whatever. But like, you can see that it's a thing.
Oh yeah. I've had a couple times over the years where I'm like, you don't need a dent repair right now. You need a woman's shelter, because these ladies are legit scared that if their husband finds out what they just did, he's going to like go crazy. Yeah. Like, you have bigger problems than this dent right now for sure. We're kind of leading into the topic I wanted to do today, which was the 3 mistakes you think you've made in your business, with your question about what would I do different, what would I hire. I was just trying to provide a really great service, and because of that, I was being stretched too thin. Too many people wanted me, so I needed help. I just needed somebody else to work with me. So I trained a guy from scratch as my wife's best friend's husband, and he was a really great artist and liked tinkering with his car. So I'm like really great, like comic book type sketches. I'm like, that's a lot of detail. I'm like, if you can do that, I can teach you this for sure. And it was true. He became an awesome tech, and he worked with me for tons of years, like 15 years. And then they moved to Utah, and he started a business there. So zero negativity. It sucked because but you don't want your business to change for the worst. But there's no negativity about it. I'm super grateful that he has a way to support his family and move back closer to the extended family.
Is he still doing it today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. His name's Jared. He has Gold Star Dents in right outside of Salt Lake. Yeah, he's great.
I think I remember you mentioning him on the podcast.
Yeah, he was my right-hand man. He basically ran the business for me and was able. He's the reason I was able to spend so much time on PDR College and Black Plague, because he had the phones on lockdown. He was great at dispatching the jobs that he couldn't get to the other guys. His wholesale work that came in, he would make sure the right guys got it. He was amazing. But, all good things come to an end, and Jared left, and I didn't have anybody to replace him. So I was back out in the field until I kind of got my guys back to a place where I felt like one of them could replace me. And then I kind of moved back out of full-time dents. And it's hard to get past that point where the business doesn't need you as an employee, as a cog in the dent repair machine. You have to get pretty big before it doesn't need you to fix dents anymore. And then when you're not fixing dents anymore, you're losing the street cred with all your technicians, because nobody says anything to me, but I'm not an idiot. I can read the room. Like this guy cruises in and fixes 2 cars a week, or half a car. Nobody's thinking you're the most amazing head of the dent repair company if you're not fixing cars.
Yeah.
If you can get big enough, it makes sense, right? Oh, this guy can't fix cars. He's got to manage 300 guys around 3 states. Of course, he's not fixing cars. Like there's a guy, I've never met him, but a guy named Scott Blind, who was a Dent Wizard guy, who apparently was a badass tech in his day, and then kind of climbed the corporate ladder and now does monster deals, at rail yards and everything else. So a guy like that, nobody's wondering why he doesn't fix cars. But I'm not doing monster deals at rail yards.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck in this limbo. But what advice would I give to somebody who's wanting to hire somebody?
Or they're just thinking about making that transition from a one-man show.
I guess I could answer this in the same way I answer the question when someone's like, should I start a business? And I feel like if you have to ask me if you should start a business, then you probably should not start a business. Because those of us who run companies, it's like a calling to do it. I couldn't not run businesses. I couldn't work for somebody else. I would be an awful employee for somebody else. I have to run a company. And it sucks. Running a company is hard. There's a million things about it that are hard. I don't view it like it sucks, because these are all, even when it sucks, it's things that I chose to do. So I'm never, if I'm on the pity pot, I'm on it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, these are all things that I chose to do. So I can just get up now and deal with my stuff like a grown man. But it does put you through the ringer in a lot of different ways, and you have to deal with stuff that's not fun to deal with all the time. That's just sometimes trivial, sometimes it's not. But you would never want to do those things. So if you're like pushing yourself, talking yourself into starting a company, you're going to hate that stuff. It's only when you feel like there's no other choice but for me to start a company and to run the show. Like, I think my ideas are the best ideas in the room. I don't like how you do it. I don't like how you do it. Like, if you feel like that, then you should do it. But if you're just like chasing something else, I think maybe you should think twice about it. There's a lot of guys that like run a business, and in PDR specifically, who they're the 20-year guys or the 30-year guys who are awful at pricing, and they underprice everything. Those guys would probably make more money if they just joined like an up-and-coming hustler in the town and just stayed in the shop and pushed dents and let somebody price the stuff at 3x what they would have done the dent for. Those guys don't need to be a business owner. They should just be a tech if that's what they want to do. But I don't know if there's one right answer for everybody, but that's how I feel.
I think that's a good answer. Like, if you feel like you have to do it, then you do it. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah. And because it is amazing. Answer. Running a company is awesome. If you like to see your ideas come to life, then you got to put your name on the sign, because nobody tells you no. And that's a benefit and a curse sometimes. Because no matter who you are, some of your ideas are awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? It's also challenging is none of us, at least nobody that I really know, with the exception of Matt Moore, he's done a good job at like doing things the way a normal business does them. He hasn't, I think a lot of us have head trash about how much technicians need to be paid because we were technicians. And we have head trash about, how a technician needs to be treated and what they're going to do because we're too close to the problem. Matt was also a technician, but he completely looked at the business like a business and was like, the most I can pay an employee is like 30% of what they produce. That's it. That's why Dent Wizard pays what it pays. It's not because they're cheap, because like that's the numbers that make a business work. It's not 60 or 70. Those are numbers that are fake numbers because they're being subsidized by guys like me and you that are also producing, and like, some of that money supports us as individuals. It's not a real business that you could give to somebody else because it would fall apart without you subsidize you or me. I'm not trying to call you out, but like that's kind of the normal way that the tech-centric business works. It kind of, and they get to like 4 to 8 people, maybe 10, and then they either collapse or split, right? Could you name me, like, there's probably 1 or 2 that I can name dent companies that have more than 10 or 15 people. There's not that many, right?
No. No, they're few and far between if they are. I mean, usually those guys split and go do their own thing.
Right. Like a key guy leaves and takes a couple people. Like It's like you're building these little pyramids out of marbles, and then you get so high and they fall every time. It's really, you got to do something differently. So I commend Matt for like, he starts people in-house that don't want to learn dents. They just want a job and they're good guys, and he teaches them dents, and then they, have a level of a way to progress inside of his system. So I think he's done a pretty good job.
Is he keeping people?
I was going to say, we're not super close. We're very friendly, but we just don't talk on a regular basis. But as I understand, he's doing a good job at retention.
Yeah.
And people like working there.
But he's also gotten out of just dents. I mean, he's opened up a auto spa. I mean, I think it even changed the name from Easy Dent to Easy Auto Spa.
He did. That's
because
correct.
There's other. I mean, you got the PPF, you got the ceramic coating, you got detailing, and maybe even window tint. He's doing wrap. I mean, there's so many services now that are going to offset and also change those gaps as far as the tech pay because of the margins on some of that stuff and the markups and what you can hire. I got to do a window tint, a good job on a window tint job versus a really good PDR tech to do a big smash. I mean, those are completely different skill sets and 2 different, investments of time for the technician to get to the level to where they can do really high skilled jobs in either one of those, right? And so when you start getting out of, like, how many of those companies that are only PDR of those, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's, I think it even changes it some. Right?
Yeah.
Because those multiple services really do offset a lot of that, and they're, I would say, cash cows. Whereas I don't think PDR is the cash cow anymore. I mean, it can be. I
would disagree from the standpoint of the expenses. There's like virtually zero for PDR, so it just generates cash. You have a high payroll because the techs demand a high percentage. But you got no money going back out and film that got ruined on a job, or tint, or ceramic coating, or rags, or any of that. Like, it's all profit off the services. So I think it actually is the profit cash cow. It's just hard to get the revenue up in a non-hail scenario that's anything meaningful.
Agreed. Like there's no products, right? I mean, you have your investment of tools, and your investment of training, and then that's really it, right?
Whereas I got my same 20-year-old dinking tool still working.
Whereas film costs something, window tint costs something, the ceramic coating costs, and but I don't know, man. I do. Those are more lucrative. I would, if you're looking to build a
more scalable.
If you're more scalable, if you're looking to build a business, they're way more scalable than. So like we were talking about. You asked me the question, what's one mistake we made in business? One thing that I did was I tried to get really big, like right out of the gate.
Tell me about it. Let me hear the story.
So I wanted to be the biggest PDR company in Jacksonville. Okay. And so I don't want to get into too many of the nuances because some of those guys are still here and they're going to listen to this and want to keep all things cordial. But what did happen was I did get big. We started taking on technicians. We had multiple accounts and lots of accounts.
How many techs were you up to?
About 5.
Okay.
And we had about 30 to 35 wholesale accounts on. And I mean, it was.
Well, you got to 5 fast,
very fast.
Like within a year of starting your business, were you at 5?
Or 2.
Yeah. I don't know much about how you work, but talking with you, I'm willing to bet that getting wholesale accounts comes really easy to you.
Yes.
Like you just knock them down when you go there.
I can navigate that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
I kind of had that. Like, it takes a certain energy to like cruise through a dealership and do what you need to do and not get chewed up.
Yeah. And
But there are long-term relationships
Yeah.
with other guys that have a lot of wholesale accounts that are,
Oh yeah.
it's
But
very,
no, it's I mean, it's, well, are we getting at our lists? Because after you finish your story, I got some numbers on my list too.
So I wanted to get big, and I wanted to be the biggest PDR company in Jacksonville. And so we were, just, I'll take it. And you're just trying to acquire accounts. You're trying to get big. And maybe there was a little bit of one day Dent Wizard might come in and buy me, and, and then that's a whole nother game there. But what I did start to see was the stress level went through the roof.
Yeah.
And then the dissatisfaction went through the roof for me because we got diluted with some of the repairs. It kind of became just money grab, like who can bill the most, not about what we're doing anymore, not the craft of PDR. It just became a money grab.
You're saying the actual repairs were not at the caliber that you wanted them to be at?
Correct.
That's a tough thing to navigate because the dealers will tell you. Well, I had a whole topic on this on one of our shows that I called mustard sandwiches. They'll say, I want this cheap and doesn't have to be great. That's what I want. You're like, I don't know if that. You don't want that, actually. You want these to be right. And they're like, no, cheap, fast. That's what I want. And it's hard. Sometimes you want to give them what they want, but you still don't feel good about it.
So we do retail and wholesale, and what I started seeing was even the retail, the wholesale, I think we have the ability to throttle up or back when necessary. That's easy as far as the level of repair.
Right.
But with retail, to me it's always perfection is always the thing we're striving for. Whereas wholesale, it's not. Depending upon
it's on my door at my shop too.
And so
targeting perfection.
Absolutely. And so then when you start, because I can control my repairs, but then I just hire you guys and I have to trust that you guys are going to have the same energy or drive or whatever that is that you put into the repair. And your guys are in different shops or they're doing mobiles and you're not able to see what they're doing. You're not able to check and see if it's good enough or is it finished. And then, so I just started seeing things where they became diluted and the repairs aren't as good as they should be.
Yeah.
And then the drama, that was the most stressful year of my PDR journey ever was that year with when it got to the apex of that with the technicians and the accounts. It was just like the most stressful. I was the most not happy that I've ever been.
Yeah.
And it kind of unraveled, some with the technicians, some with me. I'll take ownership in some of that, just with frustrations coming to a high. And so it unraveled. And then I literally kind of went back, and it was just me and one other guy. I had two shops, and we got rid of a bunch of accounts. All of it just went away. I kept the ones that were important to me. And I kind of had this come to Jesus moment as far as what I want to do and what I want this to look like, because that wasn't it. And so it's man, you got to define this. Yeah. You got to set a vision or whatever of what this needs to be, because that wasn't it. And so I was I don't want to be the biggest, but I definitely want to be the best for me. And so after that was when I went and trained with Bryce, because I was if I want to be the best, I got to train with the best. And so I just swiped that card and went and trained with Bryce and did that. And then it kind of reset me into not trying to do every dent in Jacksonville, because I was trying to do every dent in Jacksonville. It's no, I want to do the ones that I can pour my creativity into the most and the people who value me the most. I don't want to just do every account and stressing with those guys. I want to do the accounts that, I want Matt there to do my dents. It's I'll do your account, but I'm not just trying to own Jacksonville. So we went from being wide and shallow to narrow and deep is kind of how I perceive what I went through that. I forget what year that was, 22 or 23.
Seems like a long time ago.
So just a couple years ago.
Yeah. That was just all happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough transition going from like doing retail and wholesale and then growing it. Like, what gets your attention? Because you can't focus on two things. You can focus on one thing. We like to think that we can multitask, but I'm of the belief that that's impossible.
I'm the worst at it.
Yeah.
I can do one thing. That's
I
it.
think we do just multiple things poorly, especially people who are like, no, I'm really good at multitasking. Like, how could you do something to the best of your ability while also doing something else? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So we're even broken out wholesale retail. It's completely different objectives. Hard to do them both the best. You do them to the best of your ability, separate your divisions and everything, but it's not easy to do.
No.
Some of this is on my list. I'm going to go to the list of biggest mistakes. So the topic I asked for the viewer, I sent a text to you guys and said, hey, let's make notes of the 3 biggest mistakes we feel like we've made running our business. I think your response was spicy. But, I do a lot of podcasts. You guys are doing a lot of podcasts. And I was telling Matt, I think it's easy to come on and talk about all the cool stuff we're doing, and everyone watching, might be struggling with stuff. And it's like, we're doing tools and we're doing, all kinds of cool stuff. We're doing podcasts. We're growing our businesses. But there's a lot of bodies buried along the way. And I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but I definitely made some mistakes running my businesses. So I think it's fun to talk about that, both for people watching and then for us. It's like therapy. It's like when you put your garbage out on the table and you have to define it, you're like, oh, I actually don't like how that sounds. And maybe I don't want to keep doing the things that made that true. So when I go home, I'm thinking I'm going to make some different choices. So that's been the hidden benefit of doing the PDR College podcast for so many years. It's like Shane and I have to do a counseling session on our business. One of the most impactful ones was we spent an entire episode one time talking about what to do when a hailstorm hits. We prep, usually we don't do a lot of prep for the show, but we prepped for this one and had this whole list and went over in depth everything we do. And then boom, hail hit 2 hours from my house, a couple days later. So I was like, dude, we just had the entire planning session for this. This is rad. Now we can just go execute on it. But how often do you sit down with your friends and say, hey, let's spend 3 hours planning what we would do if this happened? That's not a normal thing you do, right? So the podcast is awesome for that.
So did that help you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then we did a post-mortem one and said, all right, here's what we would do if we did it again, because we made a bunch of mistakes. Quick example for that, because hail season's going to be coming up soon, probably when this episode's picking up steam. It's my opinion that if hail hits in your market, the first thing you should be doing is going to try to lock up body shops, as many as possible. Don't fix any cars for the first week, which is super hard because they'll start coming hard and fast, and you want to capture that money, but you're in that dollar bill booth and you're trying to grab the $100 bill, and meanwhile there's 1,000 20s that you should be grabbing that are going to keep paying you for months and months and months, because all the work in hail retail comes from the DRPs. All of it. As much as we talk crap about DRP programs, we hate them. They're undercutters. There's really nothing good you could say about a DRP situation, except that's where the hail volume comes. Because people get hailed on and they call the insurance and they go, okay, go here. That's it. Very few customers are like, I'm taking this into my own hands. I'm doing my own research. I'm going to the dent slayer because he's the best. Right? Somebody will do that. But most of them, all the Accords and Camrys are just going to go, whatever, just take it to the body shop they say to take it to. So that's where all the volume is. We did all this work setting up a retail shop, and we did a pretty good job of filling it, but the numbers paled in comparison to what we did at one specific DRP body shop. Had we went and got 2 more of those, we would have doubled or tripled our revenue from that storm. And the headache from retail is dumb. All the parts, friggin' moldings from Suburbans are big, dude. The boxes are huge.
Yeah.
Who's ordering them?
Coming in bent.
Yeah. Who's tracking them? Who's making sure the expenses are against the right cars? It's it turns into a real business real fast. Whereas the DRP shop, you just stroll in there, like a little mercenary and like, all right, where's my cars?
R&I's done for you.
R&I's done. You just push them with your stupid overpriced headphones on, and then you move on to the next one, and you collect your money directly from the body shop. You're not even waiting for the insurance checks. It's like the best of all the possible worlds. And that's coming from a guy who loves like running my own business. I don't want to be beholden to a body shop, but that's the environment. Like you don't go fishing in the creek, you go in the ocean. And that when it hails, the body shops are where the volume is going to be. Unless you're on the wholesale game, then that's different, where you're trying to do dealerships. But
Yeah.
so anyways, all right, this is my first big mistake that I made in my business. And that's getting cocky or complacent about my market position and kind of taking my foot off the gas. So I was early to the retail market in Sacramento. I had a website up before anybody else, not anybody, but like I had a good website that I monitored all the time. I had Google listings that I monitored. And when Yelp started becoming a big thing, I was all over it. I was like making sure the ad was dialed in, pushing people to it. I grew it to like 400 Yelp reviews, 5 stars. And my other closest competitors had like 20 or 30. So I was like, I'm like that meme at the end of the race where the guy's like slowing down and like cheering, for himself. And here comes the dude behind him and wins the race. So I just like got super complacent and thinking like, I'll just keep running a good business and doing great reviews and doing great repairs, and the reviews will stack up and, I'll stay where I deserve to stay. That is not the case. You have to manage that all the time. And if you're in first, you got to manage it even harder because someone's trying to eat your lunch, trying to get from second to first. They're trying way harder than you.
Yeah.
So that was a huge mistake. Had I done that and it isn't just like manage your reviews. It's the whole thing, right? It's like doing an SEO audit on your website on a regular basis, like doing searches to see where you rank and like understanding when you start to slip, why and where, and fixing it. It is updating all your listings and everything and making sure they're current. They have photos, they have videos, you've replied. Like it's a whole job. And it's not really fun to do, but it's necessary. And beyond just that busy work, the mental dedication to cultivating that part of your business. So it might mean monitoring your reviews sites for 1 week, but then the next one, it might be talking about putting stickers on your trucks or updating stickers, or working on your outreach to your main referral sources at your dealers or body shops or whatever. Like that's a full-time job if you want it to be. And it couldn't be, it should be really. If it was a real business with like 100 people, somebody would be responsible for that. Multiple people probably. So that's a big one for me. And so now I'm playing catch up. I am not, even though my company is, one of, if not the most sophisticated dent repair companies in Sacramento, who has like super high standards, and we're trying to do amazing repairs. If you just get online and look, the website, the internet doesn't really tell that story like it should, like it used to. Now there's a handful of people that are up there with me who are also good techs doing good repairs. Nothing against my competitors. They're great guys doing great things, but I'm responsible for my own business and my own stuff, and it should be at the top. If I would have kept that momentum and like kept pushing with it,
Nurturing it.
How long do you think you neglected that?
years. Yeah, 4, 5.
Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think?
Complacence.
And it's not fun to do that. Like
It's not
said.
fun.
Yeah.
No, and if I'm being honest, probably just a little cocky.
Were you focused on other things, or were you just not focused on that? Like, what was?
Both. Right. So I was focused, never completely focused on something else. I didn't abandon the business, but I definitely got it and Black Plague to the point that I didn't need to be up in the business, on a day-to-day, 8 hours a day basis.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean they were growing and thriving. I don't remember who told me this definition of a business once, but the idea was, if you say you own a business, if you can leave it for 3 months and come back and it's doing better than when you left it, that's a business because it's running by itself. If you can the wheels don't fall off the bus and you just have to patch up a couple holes when you get back, it's still broken. It's dying a slow death, and it's going to die if you don't keep tending to it. But if you've built it up to the point that it has the right people in the right places, it will flourish even without you. And none of my businesses are that, right? I'm still at the helm of all of them, pulling all the levers. So I don't think any of them are, real businesses or just call them mature businesses that have.
So this is a hard thing because like there's a phrase that says be the least important guy in your business so that you can go away for 3 months and it still thrives and everything works and it's probably better when you come back. And PDR is so hard to do though because it is such an art or a craft. It is so specific to the technician doing it. Like it's a really hard business to scale.
Yeah.
Right? Like
At least that's the story I've been telling myself. I don't know if it's really true, to be honest, Matt, but that's the story I've been telling myself.
So I'll back off. And Dent Wizard did a really good job at it, right?
They're the one. That's what I think of every time when I'm like, it's really, really hard to grow a PDR business. Except Dent Wizard has 1,000 technicians.
But what do we all recognize with Dent Wizard in general is that it's diluted and they're not very good and they're like they're not at the top of their game. Like I mean, that's kind of what you get, right? So. What we're doing, I mean, we're trying to be the best at what we, as far as our businesses are in our craft, and it's hard to scale that when you're bringing on these new technicians. Like I don't know, it's just the hardest thing that I can. I'm trying to see how to scale it, but every morning I wake up, I'm painting myself in a corner because I am the most important guy in my business, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean it's not an easy problem to solve, and I don't even necessarily think just a big check solves it because you could hide a lot of problems if somebody just injected $10 million into your dent repair business. You'd think you'd have it working. I'm gonna bring on this guy; he'll be the trainer. But if the culture's bad, and the whole thing can go to pot. So I was gonna say I don't know how to do it, but if I'm being honest, I don't think I've wanted to do it, or else I would have done it. Mm-hmm. Like it goes back to should you start a business? It's like, should I grow my dent repair business to 100 guys? Well, did I? Did I do anything that would be in alignment with growing my business to 100 technicians? No, nothing, not one thing. Because that's not really, I can say I think that would be cool, but I haven't actually wanted to try to do it. If I did, I would do some completely different things. I'd have to look for some investors. I'd have to have a bigger plan, a bigger footprint, and a training facility. And like if I told you, hey, unlimited money, Matt, we need to grow a company to 100 technicians in the next 18 months. Right now, you can probably already start thinking about how that would have to go down, right? And it's completely different than what you're doing now, but it's possible, If the money's not the constraint, we can hire 150 people, put them through tests. 50 are going to be gone the first day. Another 50 are going to be gone the next 3 weeks. The next 50 are probably going to stick out the training. Out of those, 30 are going to work. So that's 30. I need to get to 100. I have to do that 3 different times. I'm doing 3 different states, right? James is going to be my one trainer. I'll be the next trainer. Like you could put it together. It's just so completely out of our paradigm that you don't think about that stuff because it's.
And as soon as you asked me that, I immediately was like, that I don't want to do that, and it sounds very stressful.
Right. No, you don't. Yeah, you don't want to do it. Like everybody just wants a big business because it comes with big checks at the end if you do it right. But I mean, some people want the glory of I built something big. I guess. I
look at things through the lens of what do I want to be doing every day.
Yeah.
Like what am I content with in my life when I get up and I'm doing this thing? What is that thing? And then somehow get paid to do that thing.
I mean, it definitely would be energizing to have a team of 100. Like imagine your favorite technicians that you have working. If you had 100 of them and they were all just jazzed to be dent slayers, all over the place. And you had corporate retreats where everybody's getting better. It would be super fun to be in that and to create that culture. But I don't know anybody trying to do it.
But I think you have to accept certain terms. As soon as you cross that line into this is what I'm doing, you've accepted certain terms that you're going to get X results, or your business is going to change from what it is now into X.
Yeah, it's
right?
completely
and you
different
have to be content with that. And that's where I'm like, that's where I feel like I tiptoed into that, and I realized no way, man. And then I was able to back off and correct. Thankfully, I didn't get as big as I could have. You know, like I was able to back off pretty easy. But like, if you ask me, I mean, I'm doing what I want to do. I do amount of wholesale that keeps me fast. I think wholesale is where you develop speed. I do a lot of retail where it keeps me clean. I think I'm pushing the boundaries of what I can physically do as a technician.
Yeah.
It keeps me developing my tools. We're doing a podcast. We're doing trade show next week. And these are the things that's like, I'm having fun, you know? Fun. And as long as you're having fun, and not in a reckless, like irresponsible way, but if you're having fun doing it, then that's, to me, is indicative of what you should be doing, not, you know, the money's all there, but you're stressing out and you're not happy, and the home life is less than ideal. But man, that bank account's loaded. Like, that isn't how I view happiness for me. It's
day to day quality of life.
There's a really good movie. I just watched it again. Family Man.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it? It's Nicolas Cage. It's pretty old.
Oh no, I was getting confused with a different
Family Guy.
No, I was thinking of Click with Adam Sandler.
Yeah. Family Man. You should watch it. It's kind of
Similar to that.
talking about just being content and happy, not successful and driving a Lamborghini.
Yeah, isn't it with like he ends up in an alternate reality with a different wife?
Yes.
I think I have seen it.
Yeah. It's really good. It's kind of like self-correcting in a way of like, okay, I'm good.
All right, what's on your list of mistakes?
So, I've only been in business for myself for like less than a year.
Okay.
So I have a few things that I'm still trying to figure everything out. You know, like, so I'm gonna, I don't say these things because I don't really know how everything's gonna play out yet. So I can't, confidently say whether or not it was good or bad. But I have a couple things.
All right.
So when I first started, I thought I would be able to just do completely retail off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, I had good social media. Like, I had a good I thought I'd be able to completely be busy with retail, but I wasn't. And then when that money's not coming in, then I'm like, okay, I have to get wholesale accounts. And so I went hard and got busy doing wholesale, and I went kind of far out geographically.
Yeah.
And that,
because you got to do right when you're trying to pay the bills, you do whatever you need to do. Right?
Absolutely.
So like, eventually now I'm pretty much back into Jacksonville for the most part. But once the retail picked up, I was like, I'm just spinning my wheels going out to this place.
Yeah.
That got it, and thankfully things unfolded to where I'm not doing that anymore. But it was kind of a painful process. Where I'm like, what am I going to do with these accounts? I don't want to just walk away.
No, they're valuable. You worked hard to get them. You were happy when you got them. And then there's a new girl at the dance.
Yeah.
She's called retail.
Yeah. So was it, could I have gone harder on retail and maybe just spent way more on ad spend so that I didn't have to do that and go through that process?
Tough gamble.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like a growing pain where I had to go through that, where now I'm like, I'm only down to a couple wholesale accounts, and those are even a pain because you can't plan that money. Like, you can retail, you can just plan the money. Like, I can plan the amount of money I'm going to make in a day.
Most people would say the opposite of what you just said.
Really?
Yeah, you can plan the wholesale because it's like regular. They're going to keep selling cars. You're probably going to do 5 to 10 cars every week, but retail's like,
well, maybe my wholesale accounts are just bad.
or maybe your retail's really good. Like, if you're getting enough deal flow that you feel like you can,
you stack up a day. Yeah. You're like, okay, I'm pretty confident I'm going to make $1,000 in this day. I've stacked the jobs up, and I'm just building it out.
Yeah, in that regard, when you've already vetted out the people and you've made an appointment, you've gotten photos, you're pretty sure you can fix it, and you're pretty sure you're going to pay what you're asking. Yeah.
But now I have, well, instead of a half day or a full day of retail, now I got a half day of wholesale, and I show up to that account and there's a couple cars, and then I'm like, okay, what am I doing? I'm kind of spinning my wheels here.
Yeah.
Even with weather, it is easier for me to, even if it's like super cold or even raining a little bit, I can still go to a retail job and make that happen. It's harder to go to a dealership and walk the lot and get the work and do the work with weather. We deal with this thing called weather here. It rains a lot here. So
I thought you guys would be ready for it.
yeah. So I mean, those are just like some. I still haven't gotten to the place where I feel like I have it all dialed in yet. But it's hard. I don't know how I could have known where I would be at retail wise and be like, okay, I don't need to spend all this time developing all this wholesale. Just focus on retail. It's going to come. So, and then I have one more that's kind of silly.
All right.
But when I bought the truck that I work out of, it has some rust on the bottom of it. And I was I talked to some people. I was like, okay, someone's going to come out here, sandblast this and fix it. But that's not, nobody would answer the phone from any place that does that to do this on my 4Runner. And so it's got rust on it. And I know this is not a big deal, but like the amount of time I spend thinking about that rust on that car is silly.
Is it on the rocker or something?
It's just surface rust on the frame.
Yeah.
And in my brain now, it's just like, okay, now I have a timeline on this car that I'll have to replace, that I put this wrap on it, all this stuff. This is kind of just silly. I know this is not a real problem, but this is something that is in my brain, and I just had to tell you all about that.
It's a stressor for you.
I don't, and when I think about it, it's like I'm not stressed about it, but why do I keep thinking about this dumb thing? It's like, let it ride out. It's not gonna present any kind of problem in my business. Like
Years ago, I had this business coach, and she was talking about the things in your life like that take up this space that don't deserve any space, right? And one of them, it wasn't mine, but it was another one of her clients. She's like, this person just kept getting stressed out because, they could never find a charger for their phone because like the kids are taking them, or like, you moved it or whatever. And it's like a constant stress of like wherever they're sitting down at the desk, there's no charger. By the bed, there's no charger. And she's like, how much does it cost just to buy like 8 chargers? And it's like, 300.
screw them into the plate.
$300, and this is not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, just do it and stop. This is now off your plate. Just fix it. If it's an easy fix, just fix it. So if you're not going to stop thinking about it and worry about it, she's like, just fix it. Oh. Some problems money just solves, and it's not necessarily a big problem. But if it's eating up the bandwidth in your brain, then it becomes a big problem.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more. You got any more, Matt?
I want to hear yours.
All right.
I probably have something else to add. Yeah.
Well, so these are not in any order. So to piggyback on yours, not one of my big regrets is not maintaining wholesale relationships. As we got busier and busier at retail, we still have proportionally a large amount of work comes from the wholesale side. But a lot of those relationships are relationships that I built 20 years ago. And these guys, they don't ever leave the car business. They just go from one dealer to the next, to the next, to the next. And I got to the point where I really was only maintaining the relationships with the guys that I actually liked, that I would actually hang out with, even if we weren't talking about working together. But there's that puts a lot of people on the fringe that, we're friendly, but they're not my friends. We act like friends at work. But, if I got hit by a truck, they call a new dent guy tomorrow and they'd be friends with him too. It's not like we're not super special. And I felt the same way about them in the most respectful way you could say that. But those relationships they're not going to stand the test of time. They need to be managed on purpose. Like you're stopping in for no other purpose than to be like, what's going on, dude? You got that new green shirt you're talking about? That thing's dope, dude. like, you know, pointless. And as I got busier, I'm like, I'm so busy. The idea of stopping in to talk to somebody for no reason, it's like I just can't even get my mind into that space where I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to do all the things that need to get done. And I'm driving past a place, I know I should roll in there and just say what's up and, you know, maintain these relationships. And I just hadn't done it, didn't do it. And it happens slowly, but you start seeing you're less and less relevant. Phones ringing slightly less and less and less, because when you're out of their day, out of their mind during the day, you're out of their mind for the week and then for the month, and then you're irrelevant unless something hits them right in the face and they go, gosh, I need a dent repair and it's got to be done by Keith. I think I still have his phone number. But, you know, I'm sure you guys have had this situation happen where you're like, you have a body shop that you used to work a lot with and you haven't talked to them, and you go in there and magically they have a car for you to do. They're like, oh, I have one for you to look at. Has that happened to you before? Happened to you?
Absolutely.
Right. So your thought process is always, what were you going to do if I didn't stop in here? What do you mean you have one for me? You didn't call me. You just have one? Like, well, it wasn't going to get done? Like, what? This is weird to me. What was the plan? It's like, well, there's a million of those cars all the time that could get done, but don't have to get done. But you being there triggers them to think about it and put it into action. Like, oh, man, I was going to call you. I'm glad you came. We got this car. I want you to look at it. And then that just snowballs as you run into somebody else in the other department, and the other one. And that work, those relationships just like keep snowballing. And you get in this like flow state with work where you're like, the referrals are coming in, so the jobs are busy. So you're showing up to a lot of places. So more referrals are coming in, so the jobs are busy, and you just keep like tumbling. But then as soon as you break off of that highway and go down to the retail land, this lady thinks you're the best thing she's ever seen, and she might tell her neighbor, and that's it, right? And then this group of 100 car people at the dealership or 50 at the body shop don't see you for a week, and then another 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks, and then the worst case is someone else slides in there who has free time and stops in to say what's up 3 times a week, and then they're like, oh, I'm glad you're here. There's a car, and then it's not your account anymore. So if I could turn back the clock, I would have like forced myself to go back and just maintain those relationships. I just don't know how. I took on too many things with all the different entities that I'm trying to grow. It always felt like going in here today for this hour or half hour, I know is the right thing to do, but I don't know that this necessarily will pay dividends. It's just like what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I got like 3 other things that are on fire right now that I'm the only person that can solve.
It's not urgent.
Yeah, it's important and not urgent. I would have made it urgent, and like, because even from a greedy retail standpoint, we have like 50 people at a building that are car people. They're all potential referral sources from their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers, right? If as many people in that building know you, there's as many possible referrals as you can get. And you can't really replicate that in any other scenario. You're not going to get 50 people at a supermarket or, and there's nowhere else where that density is. So if you're going to go try to build referral sources, that's the place to do it. Body shops and dealerships. It's just by the amount of people. But they take time. Spend an hour in detail department, hour in the sales department, hour in the service department. Pretty soon, in your half a day, you've done jack squat, like as far as producing for the day. But you've planted these seeds. But then you got to come by next week and water them again, and next week and water them. So when you're busy, you don't realize you're doing it because you're there for work. You're like, oh, I got a job, and I'm saying what's up to this guy while I'm working. When there's not work there, it feels like work, but it gets masked when you're busy.
I have a little bit different perspective. Well, maybe not. I have so the majority of my career, I would say, has been wholesale.
Yeah.
From 98 till 2013, that was only wholesale. And then 8 years or 7 years of hail. And then back now doing wholesale and retail.
Oh, you did? I didn't know you did like hail directly for 7 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Just traveling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I feel like I have a lot of perspective in wholesale. And the way I view retail and wholesale is I look at wholesale as like, if I want to get chicken from the supermarket, it's there. It's always there. All I got to do is go get it. It's not going to be farm raised probably. It's not going to be the purest chicken, but it's there, right? If I want the best chicken, I'm going to have to dedicate a piece of my yard and build a fence and build a pen and get the chickens and feed them and nurture them, and then at some point process them, and then I'm going to have some really good chicken. So I'm going to have better chicken potentially,
Right.
but there's a lot more work to get that chicken versus I can run to the supermarket and grab something. It's real easy. So I look at wholesale as it's very easy to go get. There's not a lot of effort involved to go get wholesale work. Retail, you have to manage every part of that from the beginning, from what having a shop, what does it look like, for lettering on your car, to your Google ads, to all of the steps is you have to be doing the estimate, setting it up, scheduling it in,
Replying to the email.
Replying to the email. There's so many steps, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's different, and there's a lot more interaction, involvement that you have to have in retail versus wholesale. Wholesale is really easy to go get. It might not be the best money, but it's always there.
Yeah.
And so, but also I think the relationships, we just talked about this week, literally this week, that some of these relationships that you think you have with these wholesale people, they can turn on a dime. Yeah. Because they're a business.
100%. That's true. Yeah.
Like you think, man, I'm best friend with this guy. He's never going to call anybody else. And next thing you know, he called somebody else. Why is that? Well, he's needed a dent done. We think of it as like a attack on our friendship, and they're just like, the guy said he could do it today. You couldn't come till next week. I just need a dent done. And so I do value my wholesale relationships because I'm in the wholesale space and I want to lean on those. But I also take them as face value is that like, bro, that's one of the most cutthroat industries on the planet is used cars.
It is.
And that guy's going to freaking walk over your dead grave if he has to get his dent fixed.
100% true. And they'll throw you under the bus for $5 a car, if it comes down to it.
It could change hands from a dealership owner standpoint. A big company could come in and change the thing. I mean, the manager who's your best friend, who you've took the top off 3 times this month, he just got, now he's in another state, and there's a brand new guy sitting at the desk, and you've got to start all over again.
Right.
And so I've learned to like be less reliant on those relationships. Like I rely on them, but less dependent upon those relationships. Because they can be here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah, there is an element of that for sure. Definitely.
But you got some really good ones.
What, relationships?
Yeah, like really good wholesale relationships. And man, if you have a really good wholesale relationship and it's just a healthy situation, they love you there, man, you can't beat that. That's the best.
You can't beat it. I mean, that's what I was saying is those are the dealerships I want to be at.
Yeah. Where
the guy's like, just gives you the list, there's no walk in the lot. The places I don't want to be at is where they're like, you write up 10, they give you 3, and he wants to talk to you about this price, or like you could tell they don't value you, like they don't value what I consider myself part of the sales team at a dealership.
Right, same.
I am part of your sales staff. I help you sell cars, just in a different way. I make them look pretty so that they can sell. So I want to help you guys move cars, and if I can be an asset to you in that way, then great. If you think I'm an unnecessary link in that chain, I'll go somewhere else where they think I'm necessary or essential. Like, I don't want to be there if I feel like I'm having to fight with Mr. Manager every week to convince him.
Yeah. And as soon as one of the phrases you used is kind of like the red flag for that, when the topic of give you cars, when it's presented like that, it's like there's a problem. There's an underlying problem here where you're thinking, I'm here asking for you to give me something. I'm here to provide you a service, and if you don't need it, that's fine. But you're not giving me cars.
Yeah.
I don't want your cars. I'm here to help you sell them. If you think you can sell them with dents, sell them with dents. But as soon as it's like I'm petitioning you, like, oh, we're off on the wrong foot. We might never recover,
And some of those times, that takes just trust to be built. Like they don't know you, they don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah,
and
sometimes.
you got so like a new relationship. I walk into a dealership tomorrow and there's a new guy sitting at the desk, and I don't know you, you don't know me. We got to have that Mexican stare down for a minute, and I got to convince you who I am, and we have to learn each other and calibrate. And so there's a season of that. But
what's your style? Established dominance or established submissiveness?
Now I'm not being submissive. I know my value as a partnership in a dealership or part of, and so I'm not trying to go in arrogant or cocky, but I know my worth.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go in and say, this is what I do. And like, if you don't feel that value for me, then I'm just going to go back to my shop and fix dents.
All right. Then I'm going to ask you a scenario that everybody deals with, especially guys who are like starting out in wholesale. You probably dealt with it, and you might even know it by the name I call it, which is the invisible game, where you say, I'd like to meet with so-and-so manager, and he's in this glass office, and he's on the phone, so you're standing out there outside, and you kind of make eye contact, and then they pretend like you're invisible, and then they see how long you'll stand there. And sometimes even walk right out of the office and don't say anything to you. And do you chase him down and wait and say, like, I really wanted to talk to you, or do you stand in his face and make him pay attention, or do you leave and never come back? I assume you've encountered the invisible game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have. What's your so I know how I've responded in the past when I was like really hungry for the work, and I know how I'd respond to it now. What do you do with the invisible game?
I would say it's probably situational, right? Like as far as, do I really want this dealership, or do I have any other angle that I'm trying to, or is this just a cold call and it's just a new face, a new guy, and now he's playing the invisible game with me. I'm probably just going to walk in his office and kind of interrupt him, but in a kind way, and say, hey, this is Matt. I'm on the way passing by. I want to stop by and give you my card, talk to you about what I am, who I am, what I do, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to, my time is valuable now. I'm not going to just stand there and I know that game. I know
it's an awful game.
It's an awful game. And I'm at the point in my career where I'm not trying to play those games.
I don't think anybody who plays that game, the management side, has ever turned around and then been like a really great contact. If they don't treat another human being with the dignity to look you in the eye and say, hey, I recognize you're waiting for me. Today's not a good day, or I'm super busy. I don't even have time to talk. Like, if they can't give you that kind of decency, they're not going to suddenly start giving it to you, 2 months later. Those guys are dicks, and they're going to stay like that. In my experience, forever. Like, that's who they are. The managers that I've enjoyed working with over the years, they don't play that game. It's the guys that think they're too good for everybody else and like feel like they're gonna bless you with the work they have on their lot.
And I don't want to work there.
No, nobody should work for those guys.
No. I have guys in this town I will not work for.
Yeah.
If they call me and they say, man, I got 20 dealerships, I'll give you all of them. I'd say, no, thank you.
Pass.
Hard pass. Don't want nothing to do with you or your operation there.
Your breath stings and your suits don't fit. I'm not working there.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that about your hail career. So I'm interested in your perspective, because one of my third of my mistakes is not completely moving to a new state when I understood what hail was, and like reinventing my business in a hail-prone state. You're laughing, but it's not even
because I know how. No, I get it.
Because like
it's a different business.
In the business world, they call it the AOV, the average order value, right? The AOV of a retail dent is around $400, and of a hail car, it's like $6,000. Like, in what other business would you interchange those two transactions? Like, oh, I'm either going to just stand around and do retail dents, or I'm going to go to this place where every customer's worth $6,000. It's like a no-brainer, except for the fact that it's more competitive and a place that hails on a regular basis. There's lots of hail companies and people. But when I first became aware of hail, it wasn't that competitive. There wasn't like it is in Austin and Colorado Springs and Dallas, like it is where there's literally 100 dent repair guys within 15 minutes. But we don't get hail in California, at least. Like, little tiny pockets will fall and affect like a block. So if you're not like watching the reporting websites, you would never know about it. So I never, it's literally hit Sacramento once in 1989 and never again since, with the exception of 2 cars with 10 dents on them here and there, which it's not like a real storm. So I was late to the game understanding what a hail car really was. And then even later on how lucrative it could be. Because when you don't get them on a regular basis, you'll fix them for $1,000 before the internet. You're like, well, I do cars for $80. This one has 500 dents on them. I'll do it for $1,000. And you think you're killing it. When you realize now later that's a $12,000 car.
Yeah.
So if somebody was managing my business for me, they would have plucked it out of California and put it in Colorado Springs or Dallas or any other place that gets regular hail.
But would you have picked up and moved your family out of?
Well, I didn't, and I wouldn't. But
you still won't right now.
And I won't right now because they're even more ingrained. But had I done it when they were younger, they'd have their own lives and everybody be flourishing in some other state. Except we'd have probably a $4 or $5 million business and not a $1 million business. Right? It's just the numbers are just different. But you lived it for 7 years, and you left it. So what's your perspective on it? Well, you lived at Mobile, right? You chased.
Yeah, chased.
Yeah.
So we had my residence here. It's always been here since I was a kid. But I did go chase for, I think it was 7, maybe 8 years, full time on the road. But
while you had kids?
They came with me, yeah.
Oh, you brought the whole fam?
Whole family.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's different. A lot of guys run away from their families, and you brought yours. That's cool.
Yep.
I respect that.
So your real question should be, after doing that, why did I decide to open my business here and not in a hail-prone area? Because I've already experienced that. Right. And then I looked at moving to Denver. I looked at that. The cost of living was really high. I did not like the smell of Denver, to be honest. It smells like straight up
weed.
Weed. Not good. And so that was kind of like.
Is that what your town smells like?
Yeah. You can get pot everywhere in California.
So I looked at moving there. The cost of living there was pretty high, higher than here. And honestly, because I have traveled a lot of cities and temporarily lived in a lot of places, but when you really sit back and look at Jacksonville, it's like, man, Jacksonville has a lot to offer. And then I also had equity here as far as friends and family, and prior with the wholesale. I didn't want to just walk away from that equity of
and just start
fresh.
Yeah, with kids.
In a new city where I don't know anybody other than how to fix dents from the sky. So it was I want to say that was probably the easy solution. We'll just go open up a shop in a hail-prone area and just wait for it to hail, and then rub your hands together. And but I feel like this was harder, right? Trying to build a retail business off of Dordings is
way harder
than just waiting for it to hail and having a $4 million year without having to flinch hardly. So this is hard to do. I do think I probably have more, what's the word? It brings me more joy. Hail got complacent. Hail became unchallenging.
Yeah.
Hail became just like another hail car comes through. It's great money, but it was just not presenting to me the challenge of wasn't excited to get up and go fix another hail car.
Did you try doing it with one arm or one eye?
No, I did want to hire a guy with no legs.
Something he's talked about before.
Yeah.
But no, I think a guy in a wheelchair would make an excellent hail guy.
Yeah, you just roll him up.
Just roll him up to a hood stand. Give him all the hoods, decklets he can eat. He'd kill it. But anyhow, but no, I never. But
you'd have to come off that disability though.
I just thought it was not challenging. I wasn't being challenged, and so I think this is challenging. And doing the type of damage that we're doing is challenging. It takes it from being this mundane thing, it's always a new thing, and so that was fun for me. Whether or not, I don't know, do I like being in that environment? Yeah, I think I do. That's why I went on the Hill team, was to be challenged and to get out of my comfort zone. And so I'm always trying to pursue getting out of my comfort zone in a way that I don't want to be complacent in my career. And I think, and I'm not, hope nobody gets offended, but I think when you can count on it hailing every year and you don't even have to try and you can make a couple $1 million and like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to make that money, but I don't know that I would be super happy. Like, I feel like
I think I could find a way, man.
You think so?
Yeah.
I probably sound like a douche saying that, and I don't want to.
No,
I don't want
opposite.
to.
It's opposite. But they're like when we did our little hail shop in Redding, California, Shane and I, that I was talking about earlier, people would come in with a door ding, like or like a complex door ding, like a little crease through a body line or something. And I wanted to keep that shop open after the hail because it's like 2 hours from me. I'm like, this could be my second shop. So we had like professional signage done and everything. So when these people came in with door dings, I'm like, let's do their door dings, because then when the hail's done, they're going to want to come back. And Shane was like, what are you doing, dude? Like, who booked this $400 dent when we have 5 $8,000 cars sitting here waiting to be done? And I was like, I'll do it. But it's like, you can't do a regular door ding business when it hails. It just doesn't make any sense. It's stupid.
But it hailed here, and I had to basically shut off my business.
Yeah.
Just to do the hail.
Right.
Like
It's
I said, we're not booking any more door dings or creases for a long time until we get through the hail because it is when it does hail here, I will let's go. I can throttle it back. And it has 2 times since I've been
2.
Yeah. 2 pretty decent years, not.
For those counting at home, that's 2 more than me. That's 0.
Yeah. No retirement storms, but
no,
they're nice little bonuses. And Salo out there prays for hail every day.
Yeah, I bet
he wants it bad. But we are too. I mean, it's definitely a good push in your business when you get them.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and we do get sporadic hail cars. I mean, we did one last week. I got another one next week. So we get hail, but I'm not getting.
It's not like Dallas.
It's not like Dallas. No. So
yeah, send those winter hail cars over to Tammy.
They've been great, man. That's an awesome service that you do. That's been a tremendous asset to me in my business. I mean, if you want to talk about Claim Connection and talk about what it is, I can tell you how it's helped me.
Sure, yeah. So it started because, in your retail business, you're trying to get paid as well as possible. And people started saying, hey, if you submit a CCC estimate, you can get paid closer to a conventional, sometimes equivalent to conventional. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll try this. So I had, some conventional sheets made and I submitted them. And then the adjusters would come back and be like, explain to me why you wrote this, and this, and that. And I'm like, well, I didn't actually write it, but if you turn your attention to the bottom right-hand corner of the sheet, it's that number on the bottom. That's the one I would like, please. And they're like, well, we don't pay for this. We don't pay for that. And we'll only pay this for this. And I'm like, I have no way to justify this sheet because I don't even know. It's all conventional language. I didn't write it. Like, I like this idea, but I'm not equipped. If I could argue this sheet, then I probably could have written it in the first place. So I'm like, I wish I just had somebody that I could just handle this whole process. I hate these adjusters anyways. They're buzzkills. They always tell me whatever I want is overpriced or it's not worth it. And like, they never come out to the job and say, this is amazing. You guys are the best, and I think your prices are competitive, and this should be more valuable than conventional. Where do I sign? And it's like, that doesn't happen. Their job is to knock money off of the thing. So it's an adversarial conversation that I don't really like having. So my desire as a technician, like all the stuff that I've created has been stuff I wanted as a tech. I wanted crease tabs, and I wanted better glue tabs, and I wanted better glue. And I wanted somebody to just handle this claim for me. I just don't want to do any of it. I just want to do the dent. So I'm like, all right, I bet other people have the same problem. So let me just build the solution for myself, try it out. If it works, then I can offer it to other people. So that's what I did. I found somebody who had nearly 30 years of conventional experience, both in the body shops and on the insurance side. And she knows the business inside and out and every nook and cranny. So now her name's Tammy. Tammy and now a couple of support staff. When a claim comes in, I just send all the vitals. I have a form. You've used it because you send up claims. You just take all the necessary photos, you put in all the necessary information, and then your initial scope sheet and send it over to her. She combs through it and rewrites everything, all the procedures that you're going to do that you didn't know that you should be paid for. Like a great example is one of the sheets she wrote for me. It was hail truck. And then I'm just looking at, I usually don't look at her sheets, but I was looking at this one and it had like the rear seats and seat tracks to come out of this truck. And I was like, that seems kind of excessive, the rear seats and seat tracks. I don't think I've ever taken the seats and seat tracks off. And I'm like, is this accurate? And she's like, yeah, because what you also haven't done is properly remove the rear trim panel from that cab. Because to remove it properly, the seat and the seat tracks are in the way. You yank it out to the side, right, and then shove it back in there. But the correct procedure is to take out the seats, take out the seat tracks, and pull the trim directly towards where those items used to be. Like, oh, perfectly justifiable. And that's how that car is going to be fixed now. And it's like a $300 or $400 worth of work that we got to do that we wouldn't have got to do before because we would have just, we're not getting paid enough to R&I, so we just yank it out sideways and try to put it back in the right way. So stuff like that. She finds all the stuff that you should be paid for that you weren't getting paid for. So she submits it. She becomes the interface for the insurance company. She handles all the back and forth emailing and the questions and the justifications, the all data sheets to prove why these factory procedures are required, like, recalibrations or rescans or, powering down an electric car, all the stuff that we kind of just get busy with as technicians and just accept a lower number because we don't want the fight. That's part of it, is like when the adjuster comes to deal with you, you really want to fix that car. So you will cave faster because you don't want the car sitting in the shop. You do want the work. You ask for $6,000. They're like, we're stuck at $4,500. That's all we're going to pay. That's it. There's nothing more. You're like, what do I do now? Either make a big deal about it, tell the customer, they have to pay the difference. They're going to be mad at me. I'll just fix it. $4,500 is not that bad. When you hand that thing over to Tammy, all of a sudden they find $6,300. It's because she doesn't mind going back and forth 9 different times in an email, talking to the supervisor, sending over justifications, pulling up the competitive labor rates, telling them why they're underpaying, showing them their previous sheets where they paid stuff where they say they weren't going to pay. It's a whole game, but it sucks to play. But she's really great at playing it. So
you're temporarily hiring an expert in her field as an assistant. Exactly. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing.
I view it as like, whenever you've done work with a nice body shop, they have a front office with estimators in it, and they don't leave the office. They don't go work on cars. They just do estimating all day. If our shop was busy enough with dents, we would have that person here.
Sure.
We're just not busy enough to justify that person. So this is that person on an as-needed basis.
Sure.
So when you need that front office, she's there. She handles it all. And when you don't, you don't. So you pay a percentage of the claim value for her to do the work. And I'd say 8 to 9 out of 10 times she finds enough more money to cover her costs and get you more than you thought you were going to get in the first place. So it's usually positive all the way around. Less work and a little more money. Not every time. Sometimes we get kicked in the teeth. We don't have like a magic wand where every car gets paid the maximum amount. Sometimes you just get a really tough adjuster, and it comes down to like you either need to have your customer do a right to appraisal, or you need to decide that they're going to pay the whole thing out of pocket. But sometimes you just get stuck with a crappy adjuster. But most of the time, it works out great. Hail cars especially.
Yeah, she saved me on a Rivian that I did that you had to replace the mandatory replacement of the water shields and the door. And it was an insurance job, and it was 2 doors and a fender. Yeah, 2 doors and a fender. And we would have just normally R&I'd them and put them back in.
Right.
But that would have affected airbag timing. I mean, whether it does or not, that's not my problem.
No, it's what it says.
It's what it calls for.
It's
what the paper says.
Yeah.
So she says, Matt, these have to be replaced. They can't just be R&I'd and put back in. And so her knowing that is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have known that, and I could have just R&I'd them, and then I probably could have got sued if the airbag didn't go off. And
right.
So there's a lot of value to that knowledge that she has, that where I'm just a dent guy. I don't know that stuff. expert, 30 years.
Yeah, and that's specifically a software subscription to all data and the ability to know how to use it to pull up all those procedures. So when you're working with her, if you get stuck on a car, even that you're not working on a claim with her, if you just shoot her an email, she can pull up information on the car and send it back to you if you're stuck on something.
She came here and sat in my shop for at least 2 days.
Oh,
for that one of the other Rivians I did, not that one, but
That's
another
right.
one.
That's right.
She wanted to come watch the repair process. I guess she wanted to be more familiar with what PDR was.
Yeah,
and
accurate.
what we need as technicians in order to do our job, like why we need access to this area or what we're doing, just the dynamics of what we do. And so she asked if she could come up and hang out while I did the repair, and I'm like, yeah. So we used you guys to write it for us. She wrote it, it got approved, and then she said, I'm going to come watch you guys do it.
remember now.
So she came and sat on that floor for 2 days. She would not take a chair. I was sitting on the floor, so she was like down level with me watching what we were doing. So she sat on that floor for 2 days and watched me fix that dent.
And she loved every second of it. Like
She did.
When I first met her, and she's like, "Okay, I understand what you're doing. I think this is going to be cool. We can do it together." And she's like, "But answer this for me." She's like, "What happens when you're like halfway done with the dent and then like the paint cracks?" I'm like, that doesn't. I know it seems possible, but it really just doesn't happen if you know what you're doing. And I could tell she was like, okay. She's like, well, what about a dent that you think you can get out and then you're halfway done and you can't fix it? I'm like, I know it seems like I'm making this stuff up, but really that doesn't happen either. We have like, if we can do it, we kind of know ahead of time. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's really rare. In that case, that we'd either send it back or if we made a mistake, we'd probably paint it ourselves. Send it out for paint. But
Yeah.
what had happened was she had never really seen great PDR in her, experience in conventional. She'd seen it done. They had a guy who was like pretty good, but he wasn't great. So I think before she sat with you, she went and sat with Bryce, and I was like so grateful that she's only like an hour and a half away from both you guys. So she was willing to do it. But after she saw that, she's like became the #1 PDR advocate. She's like, that is so much better of a way to fix the car. She's like, that's the best. It's pre-loss condition. So she's like fully drank all of our Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And she's like, she'll go toe to toe with any of these adjusters, telling them this is the way to fix it if the paint's not broken.
It's pretty undeniable, as Bryce uses. It's
Yeah.
undeniable when you can come see the before of a large dent and see an expert repair it in a way that doesn't hide any damage, keeps all the OEM factory paint, all the factory parts more than likely, like there. Like it is the purest form of a repair that is out there when you have a highly skilled technician doing it.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else on a car that you can do where you don't add or subtract anything.
Yeah.
Right? You replace parts, you're adding and subtracting. You repaint, you're adding or subtracting. I think it's the only repair that you can do where you neither add or take away anything.
Like on the Rivian, not that one, but the other one with the water shields. That was I only replaced those because they had
Right.
the statement says it's required to do so. Other than that, we wouldn't have had to do the repair. Like
Right.
that was a $11,000 repair that there was no parts involved other than what was mandatory.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's been really great. There's still some adjusters that try to ruin the whole process, and it can be a frustrating scenario once in a while. But I mean, that's why she's dealing with it and not me. So it's frustrating. The outcome is frustrating, but I don't deal with the daily frustration of fighting with these guys.
Yeah, I can file a claim and I can get the whole ball going, and then I can hand that off to her, and then I can go back to doing what I'm doing, which is either running my business or doing a dent in the shop or building a dent tool or whatever I'm doing. And she's fighting that whole fight for me, talking to the adjuster, all the emails, which I cannot stand the administrative stuff of this job.
Yeah.
It is like just pull my finger in and out with a plier. That's probably more enjoyable than me doing the administrative stuff.
It's not fun.
And she I can hand that to her and she can do that. And then she basically says, hey, Matt, here's proof of payment. The check's been sent to you. Go ahead and schedule the customer.
Yeah.
Sweet. So all I got to do now is do the dent and get the check.
That's it.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. So totally an asset if you get in a situation where it's an insurance job, or hail is obviously that, but even like a small paintless collision T-form job, I mean, you can hire her, give her on, bring her on, and she can basically start. She can handle the claim from beginning to end.
Yeah, it works out great.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Can we talk about this?
Oh, let's talk about tools.
yep.
So this is the first time anyone's seeing it, the Black Plague Shrinky box. We have our own Shrinky box now. Shrinky box technology has not changed much.
He even calls it that.
Says
Yes.
Shrinky Box SB-4.
Absolutely. That's what I call it. It's a Shrinky box.
Not slang, guys. It's a real name.
That's the real name
Okay.
because that's what it does.
It's got a dead rat on the front. Pretty
But-
cool looking.
The actual technology inside them, they're all very similar. They're applying voltage to the panel. So we're not reinventing anything there. But what I did was I looked at it again from the perspective of a technician, and I just wanted to tweak it a little bit so that it works the way I want it to work instead of just making it fit. So this one comes as a complete set. So one of the problems with the other options on the market is they don't have a carrying case. It's just like kind of you got a handful of gadgets and wires and you kind of throw that in your truck. So a lot of guys end up putting them in a milk crate or something. So this one comes in this case. And then,
So if you're a mobile guy and you're bouncing around, throwing something in your pickup truck, and you got all this stuff, some of these rods are carbon and they're very delicate, so they will
they're
break.
all that way.
So
They're
if it
all
is
super delicate.
if it's bouncing around, you will crack them, and then when you need it, it's not there, or you got to replace it, which is super headache. So
Yeah.
having a case is awesome to protect
it's a
it.
simple thing, but it's a big difference in when you're carrying the tool around and when you're deciding to get it out and when you're deciding to put it away.
Yeah.
So the other thing is like if you've never done this before, you may or may not know you have to remove all the paint from the backside of the dent. I don't know any dent repair guys that carry like 80 grit sandpaper on purpose. Like you don't have any use for it. So we have a little set of wire wheels that comes with the kit. So when you
It's
open
not
it up-
in here because we used it earlier.
we used it out there.
It's in the shop.
And it'll have like 3 or 5 different sizes in the production one. So it'll have all these little wire wheels so you can get back there. I like the wire wheels better than sandpaper. I feel like it's easier to get all the paint off versus like you kind of get like splotchy with the
Yeah, that got
sandpaper.
off pretty quick.
Yeah. And then, so you got that. You got an easy way to remove the paint from the back of the panel. And then when you're applying the ground, if you're working on a steel car, we have a magnet attached to the ground, which is the way most of them do it. Ours is a slightly different design. It magnetizes right here, and then this is the lead. But if you're on an aluminum car, magnet doesn't work. So most of us just put a piece of steel on the other side of the aluminum, which will work with this. But we decided, hey, how about a clamp as well? So if you have aluminum, you can just expose the end of one of the inside part of the panel, connect this to the lead, and then just clamp it instead. So you just have some options on the grounding.
Yeah, typically what I do now is I'll throw this underneath the bottom side because you have the aluminum sheet metal, and then you have to magnetize it,
With a piece of
and
steel.
you put a piece of steel on top. And then when you're working the panel, sometimes it bounces and
Yeah.
it can
It's
maybe
not a
scuff or
perfect-
scratch. It's not ideal. So the clamp is pretty. Well, I don't know why we haven't done that.
Yeah. And then when you're actually applying the voltage with the panel, most of the time you're using the carbon rod, but sometimes you're going through a hole, right? So we have a piece of copper, which is not a new idea. People use bare copper, but most of the dent boxes don't come with a piece of copper. So this one comes with 2 different pieces of copper and a little sheathing to keep it from arcing out on the way into its destination. And they come straight. We bent that one for the dent. And then the other one has some threads on it, and there's a little brass coupler, so you could make it a real long piece of copper if you want to go up in some panel somewhere. So there's just a lot of options to do the job that you're trying to do.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of gangster setups to try to get these things done. But yeah, this is really cool that it's all done for you.
Yeah,
There's
it
no
just has all
guesswork.
the parts inside the case. The box itself has two different modes. Really, you're going to use the one mode. There's a time mode and a power mode. The time mode is how you'd imagine. It only operates. It has a button here to energize it. So you're able to kind of use the rod behind the metal like a dent tool to locate your area and kind of get it right where you want it. And then you can use the button to energize it, as opposed to some of the other options that are hot all the time. And you kind of have to just like wave it around and smack it and hope you see where you... It's not a natural way of finding a tool.
That's how it's got these little adapters too that
to handle the different
snug
diameters.
everything up because they're different diameters from the carbon rods, which are kind of what we use, which are very brittle, to the copper.
Yeah.
So
It's
this adapts it all down.
relatively rigid piece of copper. A tiny dent, you probably could fix it with that copper just pushing it. So you can kind of use it like a tool and find your little area and then zap away there. So in the timed setting, it's only hot for the amount of time showing on the screen, like 0.1 seconds and up. So that's pretty cool if you're learning the tool. It kind of is like a safety, so you're not going to be able to burn it in those short bursts. But once you kind of learn the tool, you would be there forever on that time mode. It's better to switch over to power mode, which is hot as long as the button is depressed. And then you can do whatever kind of technique you like to do to shrink it. So the last piece of the puzzle is the kind of the black magic of actually using the tool. If you've never done it, it's not that easy. It's not that intuitive either. So we've got the steps right on the front. So if you've never used it, it just kind of gives you a basic rundown of what to do. And then when that particular QR code is not functional, but on the production units, when you scan that code, you'll go to a video that just shows you how to use it.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Just kind of trying to take all of the reasons that make a Shrinky box not so great to use and making them better to use. And the most important one, I think, is the price point. I personally hesitated for a long time buying one because it's not something you need today. And they're all over $1,000. Some of them are $2,000. And I just couldn't justify putting a $2,000 box in my truck for the off chance that I may need it in the future. Like I wanted one, but I didn't want it $2,000 maybe. This price point is $850. And it has all the little gadgets to actually do the job. So $850, you'll have this resource in your truck that, let's be honest, hopefully you never need it. Nobody really likes shrinking a dent. But when something's stretched, it's stretched. And it's not coming back without a box. So
I personally feel like there's been more stretched dents in my life in the last 4 years than my entire career.
And I don't know if it's because we know we can fix them now and before we just let them go.
Well, probably that. Was like some placebo, but I think it's also just the metal.
Yeah.
The metal's so much thinner now, and cars are like more susceptible to the metal stretching as opposed to a 2000 Ford Taurus, like.
Yeah, and you are accustomed to say yes to everything now.
Yeah.
When 5 years ago, you didn't feel bad about saying no because it's stretched. Now you're like, I can fix it.
I would say we have stretch dents in my shop. I want to say 50%. I think it would be higher.
I mean, I brought that thing in here randomly to show you today, and there was a stretch dent on the hood that your guy was working on that needed to be shrunk. So it's like, we didn't set that up, but it happened.
At least once or twice a week, we have to use a similar machine.
And because all of my ad spend, all of the stretch dents that I get, I just send here too. So you're getting several technicians.
So thank you.
So I need one of these for sure.
No, you shouldn't have these. This is not for you. This is not for you. This is only not for mobile guys. I'm kidding. It's totally set up for mobile guys. And so for those who don't know what these things do, we were talking about it earlier as we were doing this dent. I was explaining to one of the guys out in the shop. It's like, we have limits in PDR as far as what we can do with a dent. And for years, it was when the metal stretches, it becomes unworkable.
Right.
It becomes soft in whatever way, and you push it, and it kind of flexes up in this mound. And you're like, oh, that's not good. Let me tap it down. Then you go to tap it, and it just drops in.
Falls, yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's not good. Now it's a dent again. Now you push it, and you get in this in between this flip flop where this metal is just essentially unworkable, and you're done. Not more you can do. You try gluing a CD or a paint stir, whatever you do to make this
Or
look
you
good.
spend an hour like carefully trying to tap it down and push it and think that it's somehow going to stabilize it. It's done.
Never does.
It's done. Or it's not the right way to finish it. And so when these came on the scene, all these did was allow us to take our skill set that much further.
Right.
And repair things that were before unrepairable. Now we can repair them. As long as the paint's not busted, if it's stretched, I got you. Like I can fix a stretch dent now. And so these essentially are essential now. If you're doing hail, you're going to encounter it. It's not a question. It's when. If you're doing retail, you're going to encounter it. It's when.
100%.
And so if you're not expanding your skill set, you know what else I heard the other day was like, what everyone else has this ongoing training in
professional training.
Professional training.
Yeah.
Like, why are we as dent guys not continually getting training? Like, is it an ego thing?
I almost got you reminded me. I would have been in trouble. I was reminded by Bryce that I should make sure I say on the show that we have a date and place for our Advanced Skills Seminar 2025. We're doing it at Anson in Texas in October 9th through the 12th. So save the date if you want to go train with Bryce and some other guys. But there's your ongoing training.
Listen, if you're a dent guy, you think you got it figured out, humble yourself. If that's what it is, if it's an ego thing, humble yourself. If it's a money thing, figure it out, save for it if it's important to you. And if you take this career seriously, then you should allocate those funds to get training. I don't know if it's every year, but at least, perpetually.
Yeah, just stay in that direction of trying to get better.
When I was in Denver when I first got introduced to this, and I was working with a hail partner. We had a car that came in with stretch dents, and I'm looking at Will, and I'm like, dude, we need to go get one of these machines. And he's like, oh, that's $2,000. I'm like, it doesn't matter. In 6 months, we are irrelevant if we can't fix these cars. So it's almost like you have to do it. There's no, do I do it? It's
right.
You do it or you become irrelevant, because if other people are doing this and you can't do it, where does that position you in the marketplace? It's like, not good. So I looked at him, I was like, dude, I'm going to go buy this thing because I got to do it. My wife did not like it. She squirmed a little bit when it's $2,000 for a machine, but we literally got it, took it back, fixed a car that was stretch dents. And I'm like, there you go. I'm not going to say it's paid for itself yet, but it's on the track, right? Because it will eventually, but you have to pursue getting better at what you do, whether or not this through training, and also getting the tools that are available to us to do those, to hit whatever that threshold is and then surpass that. And so there's a couple other style machines like the T-Hot box and some other stuff that
It's different.
they're different.
Different tool. Yeah.
This is specific in what it does,
Right.
and what it does, no other machine can do, right? Like there's no other, there's nothing else that'll do what this does, and this does steel and aluminum.
Correct.
So if this works on steel panels, high shrink steel panels, aluminum panels. So this is the one machine that does all of them, and like I said, what it does, nothing else will do. So if you're serious about what you do, then you should have one for sure.
And all that stuff all goes in that one box.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's not too tight of a fit either. You don't need to have like an origami degree to get it in there.
I have a version that's older. Mine's probably, I got it in 2016. So it's going on 10 years old now, but it works, but it doesn't have some of the features that this does, which is we use this today in my shop on the stretch dent. And they have this bendable rod situation. I mean, there's other ways you can rig it up, to be fair, but
right.
you're having to invent something that's already invented. Like these things here are already good to go, and then the little gas pedal, power button, whatever, to be able to turn it on when you want. Because sometimes you're threading a needle, man. You're going into a little place that you're playing operation, so to speak, trying to get this thing in.
What would you do before unplug it and stick it in there and try to hold?
No,
you just could.
You don't. You're underneath it, and you're like, please don't. Or you're taping off the holes, which you still might have to do some of that stuff. That's not. But this is it's there for you. All the question or all the figuring out's already figured out.
Good job, Keith.
Thanks.
This sleeve will protect it from arcing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that sleeve made of?
Unarcable.
Unarcable.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably like a burn.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I don't know what it's made of. It kind of feels like a fiberglass with like a silicone on the outside.
Yeah.
It's like a rubberized fiberglass.
Yeah.
Always want to pretend everything like this is made out of Kevlar.
It just protects it from arcing when you don't want it to. Premature arcing. So yeah, this one worked great. I have nothing but good things to say about it.
And this thing has a encasing around this thing, which has multiple wires.
Yeah.
Do the other ones have that, or is that specific to yours too?
They all have something.
Something to keep
Yeah.
everything together. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't call it like, groundbreaking. It's just like a couple marches forward towards what I want as a technician in a package that I want at a price point I want to pay.
I'm gonna get one for the other shop. I got Andy on board doing these now. I showed him how to use one to fix a stretch dent, and his mind blew. And
It's pretty wild when you go from thinking you can't fix oil cans to fixing them. You're like, oh,
yeah,
Okay.
it's exciting too. Like it's like, dang, let's go.
all these jobs that I just gave up because they flopped on me.
Yeah.
Now
Which could be a blessing or a curse.
right.
So do you have any of these for MTE, or you just have the prototype?
So it's not a prototype; it's a production unit. The other ones are on their way. I had that one air shipped out, and the other ones are on their way by a sea. So if people want to, I don't even know if the show's going to go live before MTE, but if it does,
No. Probably not. No way.
So at MTE, we'll be taking pre-orders, and then they're going to ship around end of February.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna have
Really good option.
I'm gonna have to get one.
I think
sure.
I'll get one too.
And then that's not the only new tool on the table here. We got some other exciting stuff out.
Yeah. So this will be at MTE. Let me move this stuff out of the way. We were playing with this a lot today, me and Keith. But these are the Blackhive modular leverage plates. And so what do they do? Well, they do a lot, but really we were talking about is all we've given you is essentially like a Lego block. And the magic from the Lego block comes from your creativity and what you can do with it. So all they are, just to kind of back up, is these aluminum plates that have holes all around them and then holes around the edges that you can bolt together infinitely, as big as you want, in different positions you want, and create different leverage solutions for whatever complicated dent you're trying to repair. And so with dent guys, leverage is one of the main factors that you're pursuing all the time is ideal leverage. Yeah. And so we're always chasing that ideal leverage and obviously the ideal leverage device. And so every car is different, every dent is different, every situation is different. And we're always trying to have solutions to little problems that pop up. And so I wanted something super small that you could keep small if you needed it small, but then also expand it to whatever size you're trying to accommodate. And so we created these plates. And so there's lots of things you can do with them. We have these little half plates that go on here and allow a piece of webbing, so you can make a ring for like a door, closing a door for like fixing a roof. You can bolt them together, which I don't have here at the moment, but you can bolt them together and get a double. We were even playing with this. Me and Keith, we got this piece of aluminum and it fits in here and it tightens down to where this is not coming apart. And now we have another.
Y'all came up with this today?
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about this is like, I've never seen this setup ever. And y'all just came up with it.
I know. That's when
Love
when Matt first showed me this, I'm like, all right, cool. It's a hail hanger. But I got a hail hanger. Everybody does. But then once we started taking it apart and like realizing, oh, you can be really creative with this. And I'm like, grab that piece of aluminum. Like, oh, now this gets me excited. This is like, I can clamp this up. And you said these vice grips come off the shelf like this.
Those are Milwaukee.
From Milwaukee.
I get them from Home Depot, and they have a little hole that allows them to bolt right on to these.
So cool.
And
so now you can bolt that thing up somewhere. You could bolt this up inside of a fender or a quarter panel and get all this massive leverage on this thing. So once you start playing with it for a few minutes and seeing it isn't a hail hanger, it's a Lego block, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. It can even fit inside this channel, right? And you can move this thing around. So I think we're going to see some really creative guys come up with some awesome leverage solutions with just a set of Legos that you can build up and bolt in to whatever you're working on.
So this fits in there?
That bolt will fit in this T slot.
No way.
To slide up and down.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Man, wow. This is just unlocking more and more. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep.
So, again, what is it? It's a leverage solution.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And for whatever you're encountering, whether it's a roof with a ring or a fender or underneath a bedside where there's tons of openness and you're trying to create structure to pry off of, all we've done is give you a buildable thing, a scalable thing. And listen, guys, some of the feedback I got was like, well, it takes a second to assemble it, but it does. I mean, if it takes it. Listen, if you saw what I do to fix some of these dents, where I'm getting 2x4s and cutting them apart and drywall screws.
I have 2x4s in my car all the time,
like
for stupid stuff like this.
Of course, it will take a second to configure it in whatever you're trying to do, but you're not going to have to run to Home Depot to do it, or get out your skill saw. Like, we've tried to give you guys professional solutions that answer problems that you can build upon. And if you're a hail guy and you just want a hanger and all you're doing roofs, you can set it up that way. It takes you 5 minutes to set up that way, and you have a good hanger. Mm-hmm. If you want to set up for hatches, we can potentially do that here. If you want to do bedsides and taillight pockets, then it can solve that problem. It's just a Lego block that your creativity of how you're going to use it is the fun part about it. So, yeah. We'll have these at MTE. We have, right now, we only have 40 sets made. So a set comes with 5 of these hexagon discs, 2 of these adapter plates, and with the webbing, and it's either 15 or 20 bolts. I don't remember what we've finally decided on. So you can go right out of the gate and use it as a window hanger or as a single window ring. So we only have 40 sets at the moment with 5 discs in it. So depending on how this goes, we're gonna obviously do another run. These are hard to make.
Yeah,
these
lots of holes.
These are a lot of machining. These are not a simple thing that you can just spit out. Like, it's a lot of setup time to make these things. And so
China said, "Hold my beer."
We're gonna have 40 sets at MTE. And I've already got guys wanting to buy them for me on Instagram. And so I imagine these will go.
This is my first time seeing the real thing. I've only seen prototypes, and with the printed Blackhive, it's printed on the, what's this thing
Laser
called?
etched.
Laser etched. I mean, these things are sick.
Yeah, the gold hardware.
Yeah.
It's not gold because it's fancy. It's gold because it's grade 8. It's very strong.
Yeah.
And this should be stronger than whatever you're trying to fix. So
Sweet.
Calling it the Blackhive leverage system, is that what it is?
Blackhive modular leverage system.
Modular leverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when MTE is over, can they find it on your site, A1?
It'll be on A1's.
A1's.
PDRtool.com.
Or you can always go to dentslayer.com and click on tools. It'll bring
go.
you the same
Takes
place.
you right to A1. Yeah. So.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the different setups that people come up with.
I mean, I can't wait to see what people come up with this thing, with the bolt being able to slide in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Our head kind of kept like exploding every time we put something on it. It was like, well, that opened up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, that opened up more possibilities. It'll only continue to do that.
Yeah.
We were talking about having a contest at some point. I don't know when we're going to do it, but hang with us here for a second. But I'd like to have a contest to where maybe guys show on our Instagram page or the Facebook group about the most unique way you can set it up, and we can give away some shirts or hats or something. If you post a picture and it's It's pretty unique.
Yeah.
And we'll do some giveaways like that. So, but this thing will be. I'm excited to use it.
Yeah,
because
very cool.
Solves a lot of problems. But did you want to see the other tool you're asking me about?
Oh yeah. So I was talking to Bryce Kelly, and we were talking. I had him coach me through a Tesla dent a couple weeks ago. The classic lower hatch of the Tesla smashed against a pole, and you've got to separate the panel bond to really get that edge right, because you have to reshape the whole thing. And long story short, I could not break the panel bond. I got one little spot open, and I just could not. I had doing all the steps. The paint was 200 degrees. I had 3M cavity wax in there. I had my thinnest tool that I also filed down to be even thinner, and I just could not get in there and get the job done. And I was talking to Bryce in person about it, and he's like, "Yeah, Matt developed this tool called the butter knife for that very purpose." And I'm like, there's so many tools that just don't get enough airtime because there's too many tools to talk about. And I'm like, show me this butter knife, dude. So it's a super stout tool, but you said it's bendable, right? And the end it's like a butter knife, but it's small. It's smaller than that, but it's got a perfect radius in the end, and it's shaved down on both sides. It's not quite razor sharp, but it's pretty damn sharp and pretty tiny. So you can bend it to get the right angle. So if you're coming at this panel, you can bend it to line up right in line. But then with this tool, it's strong enough that you can force it in. And what you were telling me is that it isn't just a tool for breaking it open. Once it's broken open, you now have a very forgiving shoulder to work, as opposed to a super sharp whale tail, which the whale tail was not intended for that purpose. It's for something else. This makes more sense, because as you're coming in at a different angle, I can change this angle and get the same push with that radius end. So it has a lot of flexibility in this plane and still not over pushing or getting you out of the right zone. So I think if you're struggling with panel edges, I'm excited to put this thing in my shop and see if we can break through it. Because honestly, it's one thing that I know Bryce does it because he shows it and he tells me how to do it, but I have not been able to recreate. Even with all the steps and coaching, I have not been able to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm
excited. It's a difficult spot to repair. I mean, that's one of the most challenging. That's why he has it in his thing. When you go pay, he does. That's a dent they do, because it's so many guys struggle with that. And this tool came from working with him and encountering these situations to where nothing else works. And this works, and it's got a ton of power. It's got more power than you need with this tip to do what you're trying to do. So yeah, you cut through the glue, and then you can repair the dent. I call it a constant round right there, where you can, as you're pushing, unlike a whale tail, which is, full disclosure, like before this tool, what I would use would be like an ultra thin whale tail, because it's ultra thin and sharp, and you're going to heat it up and you're going to cut it in there. And then once it's in there, you're going to try doing a repair with it, and then that ultra thin is just going to just twist. I mean, it's not
meant for that high torque situation. That's a finesse tool.
Just wrapping the handle, and you're not happy with what you're getting, and so then the frustration starts in. That's when the repair starts to the wheels fall off. And so this tool is super strong. It's stronger than what you're trying to do with it, and I heat it a little bit to cut through the glue. You want to be careful anytime you heat a tool that you take some of the stiffness out of it. But if you keep it just isolated to the tip and just get it to where it just cuts through that glue, you can push through with it, and then once it's in there, you can work it, and it just lifts. Doesn't really push. I think I call it more lifting, like that area.
What is this, about $600?
Yeah, this one was $699. No, it's I think it's $100. It might be $129.
Seriously?
Let's look it up.
Yeah,
that's cheap, dude.
He can pull it up on there. But these are available at pdrtool.com right now. They should have them on there, unless they're all on a trailer heading south to Orlando. They might be. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but either way, by the time you guys,
$119.
Dude, that's a crazy deal.
By the time you guys get this,
it's a beautiful tool. Holding it, like, the finish is great.
Yeah. It's 3/8 stainless, so you can bend it.
Oh, is the whole thing stainless?
You can bend it and kind of get that banana arc you want to just kind of rainbows right up into the dent that the area you're trying to get to. So
it's a lot of subliminal messages right there.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to avoid banana arcs and rainbows while I'm here. If it's all right with you.
Well, here, I'll give you your very own so you can go banana arc and rainbow
all right.
all you want.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
My guys at the shop will be super stoked. Sean, my lead tech at the shop, he and I both have been struggling with. He had one of those Tesla gates, and he's like, Keith, I did everything Bryce said to do. I couldn't break it open. Then I had one. I'm like, well, I'll show you. And I couldn't get it broken open either. And this, I think, is going to be the difference of just getting the right power at the right tip and the right angle. Because that's all it is. You have the heat, you have the cavity wax, you're on it. The only thing left is the right angle of attack with the right power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, too, with the whale tail, you're trying to push it in there, and that thing just...
It's bowing.
It's bowing.
It's not meant for that.
You're losing all the drive. It's just going all...
Yeah, you know
apart.
what? The more I talk about it, the more you make me realize like that's an incorrect tool for that purpose. But it's because like that's all we have, so that's what you use. But a whale tail is meant for a completely different purpose. It's not meant for shoving through. It's not meant for cutting, right? It's meant for going up inside a tiny little brace and having all the leverage on the tip and having like really finesse movement. And we're trying to do something completely stupid with it.
As our repairs evolve, so should our tools.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why what I feel is my calling as a tool maker is to help stay current with that. So you got to stay doing pretty cool repairs and then trying to develop tools that make those repairs successful, whether or not it's a leverage thing or a butter knife or, Shrinky box SB4. Like we're trying to create tools and tabs and different solutions that march us forward to the goal of these crazy repairs we're doing.
Well, thank you for the gift. This is the time of the show where I reciprocate with your very own Make Metal Flat Again hats.
Nice.
Let's go.
It's such a perfect time to wear this hat too. to be honest.
Well, man, it fits right off the shelf.
I already feel my panels getting flatter and my economy getting stronger.
So, my wife made a really cool observation, which I'm really excited about, which is we opened our business in beginning of 20, January 1st of 20. But it really started taking off the end of 20, which is when I opened this shop here in November. But we've only operated our business under the Biden COVID economy. Oh. I've never been in a Trump economy. So
it is on.
We're excited to see where that goes. Not to get this political, but all you got to do is look at the first week of him being in office, and I get excited about.
I do too.
Potential.
I don't know how you couldn't.
It's amazing. He came in and he just put his foot down, and he means business, and I'm a fan of all of it. So I can't wait to see what it does for this economy, for our industry, for all of it. I think it's only good. So.
But in our corner of the world, all we have to worry about is making metal flat again.
That's right. That's right.
Well, boys, thank you for inviting me out to your show.
Of course.
Very cool. I'm grateful. I mean, I was glad that you made the invite. Am I the farthest traveled guest? I got to do some math. They're coming from California.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tony's Rhode Island, but that definitely is further.
Unless you say Jonathan Balderrama came from Australia or Argentina.
He came from San Antonio.
Yeah, that's true.
So cool. I'll take that crown until
Congratulations.
someone takes it from me. But I was grateful that you put the invite out, because without that, I'm might not have been on my radar to it's like an hour and a half or two from where I'm staying for the MTE. But I think it's kind of a cool note to end on. There's the idea of like whatever you're working on, you tend to like kind of keep it to yourself and secret until it's like done. But the universe wants to help you accomplish all your goals. And when you share them with people and you tell them what you're doing, stars align and things come to be. Mm-hmm. I have a little story about this. My daughter wanted to go on this. It's not, I'll call it a mission trip, but it's not put on by our church. It's put on by people who are members of our church, who organize these for-profit mission trips. So the kids go to another country for like a month, 3 weeks, and they do some humanitarian work, but they also do some like fun little adventures, but they like put their phones away, they read scriptures at night and stuff. And she really wanted to go. And the one she wanted to go to was in Fiji, and they're expensive. And it was like right when it lines up with one of my daughter's a competitive, she does horse shows, hunters and equestrian hunters. I keep saying jumper. She's not a jumper. It's a different discipline. But anyway, she had this big horse show that she has to go to, and this mission trip that she wanted to go to was like kind of too close to it to make it happen. But she still was like, kids who don't want to let go of an idea. So we're at family dinner. My sister's over, who's not even a member of our same church. And my daughter's like, I really want to go on this trip to Fiji, but it's like we're having trouble kind of working it out, but I really want to do it. And my sister's like, I bought a trip to Fiji with that same mission trip company because it's my friend's sister who runs the company. And then I got pregnant and I couldn't go. And normally they don't refund them, but since I know the owner, they said, we'll just keep the credit and you can use it or give it to somebody else. So she's like, I'm giving it to you, Peyton, so you can go on this mission trip. So I'm like, man, what a cool lesson for a kid. Just putting what you want to do, putting your desires and your plans out there into the universe, and then the wires just will get connected for you. Yeah. So like you just taking a flyer and saying, hey, come 3,000 miles away and do a podcast. Like, hey, it works. I made it work because I knew it was an opportunity.
That was a long dart across the room, hoping I hit a bullseye.
And it worked.
Bullseye.
Yeah, you're right. So like it's valuable to tell people what you want to do, make those desires, put them out there in the universe. I'm guilty of it a lot too, working on my stuff. I don't ever want to like talk about what I'm doing in case it doesn't work out. I don't want to look like I'm just talking a big game. Yeah. So I keep it kind of quiet until I know it all works. But it's not the best way to do it. But there takes some vulnerability to talk about what you're doing before it's worked out,
Sure. Well, I appreciate you bringing that, sharing that with us. I appreciate you helping me expand on this guy. That was
awesome.
Fun.
That was fun.
And we're literally leaving. Well, you're leaving tonight, but like you're leaving tomorrow. I leave Thursday for MTE, which is our largest trade show for our industry, and it's a 3-day event in Orlando, 4-day event, depending on how you figure it, and super fun. So I'm looking forward. That's where I met you last year. Yeah. Looking forward to.
We're gonna do some more demos together this
Absolutely.
year.
I'm gonna have my hood set up again. My son won't be there to front kick it, but we'll have somebody front kick it.
And a door.
Yeah, door, and we can anything you want to demo, just bring it by. It's there. Great. We're just gonna be doing cold glue, but whatever you want to use it for, just show up and do it. No question asked.
I love it.
So it's gonna be awesome. Looking forward to it. Keith, where can people find you?
Well, a lot of different places. For the claims, it's claimconnection.io, not .com. There's a different business that's that. So we're .io. For Black Plague, you can get my tabs at almost all the tool companies, but some of the products I only have specifically on my site. It's blackplaguepdr.com or deadrattabs.com. I don't suppose anybody would want to do a retail dent repair with me, so I'll save you that contact. But of course, then we have the PDR College Podcast that has 300 some odd episodes from all over the years of a lot of things we've done wrong, things we've done right, things we wish we did, stories from different dent guys' careers. Try to have some pretty interesting podcasts in there. Mm-hmm. But our big thing was talking about money. Nobody would talk about money, and it pissed me off. So I just started a show where we talked about money.
Mm-hmm. If you're new to PDR, you need to go listen to every single one of those podcast episodes.
Yeah, there's good stuff in there.
A lot of value there.
So much, yes.
And then there will be, probably by the time this show's up, there will be a sign up on pdrcollege.com if you want to save the date for the Advanced Skills Seminar 2025 in October. That's going to be super fun. That's the first time we've done it in Texas, first time at Anson, so that'll be a big deal.
Are you still building the trainer roster, or is it?
Yeah, still building it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Bryce for sure is the headliner, and then we're building out the rest.
Okay.
I've got talking about work, putting what we're building out in the open. That's kind of bit me a couple times trying to get Arlson from Brazil. I still want to. I'm still trying, but I don't want to make any more promises that I can't keep.
Yeah.
But that's the goal.
Yeah. He'd be awesome for sure.
He's a legend.
Yeah. James, where people find you?
DentRepairJax.com. Dent Repair Jax on all the socials. Boom.
JAX.
JAX.
Yep.
Yes.
And if you're looking for me, just go to alloutpdrjax.com for my local dent removal. Or if you're looking for tools, training, or the podcast, you can go to dentslayer.com and you can see links to all of that there. We got some Facebook pages and groups we're doing. Also my Instagram, which is where I hang out the most, I would say, is the Dent Slayer. But
we just added another course on our online platform. It's another Tom Price course called PDR Coach. So right now we have 3 basically beginner courses. But the Tom Price courses are not just beginner. They go through advanced techniques. They're older though. But basically you can learn PDR for $300 for TNT, or $500 for the PDR Coach, or $750 for to learn from Matt.
Yeah.
So I mean that's crazy for any budget, and we're just constantly going to be adding to that.
yeah, as far as the diversity of courses, multiple courses from some other interesting people that are going to be putting up some courses on there. So more to come on that.
We could probably have a conversation about my audiobook, Finding a Home, on there, my PDR phone skills course.
Yes. Absolutely.
Easy.
Let's put it on there.
Conversation's over.
Yeah, it's been sitting dormant on
You know
the computer for a while.
I reached out to, and he said one of the first courses I ever bought was Shane's blending course, because I bought it with the package with the hammer.
Yep.
And so I said, dude, let us put that on there. And he said, yes, but we haven't made it happen yet. But that was one of those courses I was like, that needs to be here.
Yeah, I might also have access to that file because we did that deal together. So
Nice.
with the PDR College. So I could probably help if he can't find it.
Yeah. So we're trying to make dentslayer.com a hub for training, whether or not just my training, but other people's, like Tom's at the moment, or Shane Jack's or Keith Cosentino's. So we're trying to make it a collective, essentially, where you can come there and buy individual courses that maybe interest you.
Tom would like nothing more than to share the stage with both Shane and myself. He would love that.
Well, there you go. He's already on there.
We'll let him know at MTE.
Yeah.
We'll congratulate him.
Yeah. Keith, I appreciate you coming, man. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
really
having
love
me,
you.
boys. It's been a
Thanks
lot
for hanging out.
fun.
We
It's
had a lot of
blast.
fun today. So, guys, we will see you guys on the next episode. It's going to be super interesting. You got to stay tuned for who we're going to have on. The next guy, should I say, is a non-industry
Yeah.
guy. He's a non-industry guy. But I think you're going to be super hyped and excited about who he is and what we're going to talk about. So I'm super pumped about it, and we look forward to it. And so anyhow, see you guys on the next one.
See ya.
Slayer, Matt Boya. Thank you so much for being here.
She's smooth.